Oh gosh, what's the platform that a lot of the kids stream music on?
Spotify?
Yeah, it's kind of like a startup Spotify competitor, basically.
You're sounding really old. What are these kids are using this thing? And
Nice. It's like, oh shit! I just forgot what I was going to say. It's something good too.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 31 of the Triple P. My name is Scott Gentry. As usual, I am joined by a great group of friends who are also all amazing modelers. Ivan Jensen-Taylor, Doug Smith, John Bonani, and TJ Haller. Ivan could not join us at this time, so it'll just be John, Doug, and TJ. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
I'm good. I just drove across the country, so I'm super excited to be here.
How was the trip?
Not bad. 2 days broken up and no podcast listening. My wife, we listen to classic rock and, Metallica and a few other things, but no podcast. So I got a lot of catching up to do, but it was good. We made it on time and happy to be here to talk with our special guest too.
Yeah. Joining us in the special, I believe Chris Sieber last time called it the Jim Bates seat. We have Steve Munsell. CEO and president and chief executive everything from Value Gear. Steve, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, glad to be here.
So Doug, what have you been up to?
well, trying to get heat in my basement because now it's getting really cold. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. But I have been modeling. Also have our sixth grandchild arrive, which I'm proud to say middle name Abrams. And
Nice.
yes, it is in reference to the tank. Abram was a family name of my daughter-in-law. My son insisted on tacking the S on the end. So, yeah.
TJ, what have you been up to?
Build models, I guess. I mean, it's pretty much all I ever do. Yeah, I think, I guess I can talk about it now. I think since the last time we recorded, which was thrown off a week because of John's move, I think I've done 3 models. I've started and completed 3 projects, which has been pretty cool. Some like different stuff that I have never done before. So it's been really fun.
What's going on down in Flagstaff, Steve?
Nothing, starting to get cold. Garden's finally dying, so I don't have to water it anymore. I just spent the last month making a whole bunch of masters for the German 1/16 stuff.
Yeah, for that new stew, got some sets getting ready for that.
Yeah, I got old Andy breathing down my neck. He's ready to go, man. So he's like, chop, come on. So I'm going to meet him tomorrow and give him a bunch of sets. I got to take pictures of them and put it online.
Are you guys meeting halfway or are you going to a store?
I'm going to go to a store. I got to pick my wife up at the Phoenix airport.
Oh, nice. Just do me a favor. Steal one of those Stugs he has behind the counter.
Yeah,
I will pay you handsomely for it.
I will not. I'm an honest man.
You can be honest about it. You can tell him I'm taking it.
You pay me more than $100. $100 is a pretty good deal.
I'll give you $100 right now. Oh, that's awesome. I'm jealous. He has a great store.
Yeah, that is one of the best hobby shops I've been in. I mean, there's a couple I've been to that have been pretty amazing, but growing up, like the stores I had in town, they were just Hobby Town USA's, and there'd be like 5 kits to choose from, 2 Verlinden sets. I would just buy whatever they had because that's what they had. It's nice to go to Andy's. I mean, I don't even know what to buy.
Yeah, he's got stacks on deck there. It's crazy.
Yeah, so I've been gathering up Skyhawk references and kits for the Model Geeks group build. I'm going to be participating in that. And I built a Tamiya Achilles turret from a spare kit I had and sent that to our good friend Steve here to do some masters for.
Oh, snap. Steve, he roped you into something. You can't let him sweet talk you. That's how he got all us.
It's how I allow myself to get forced into finishing stuff. Like, because I've had like UK Commonwealth packs on my packaging for like 8 years now or something, and I still haven't ever finished them. So now I have to finish them.
False advertising then. You got to get on it.
Not false advertising. It's getting the most out of my printing, man.
This was definitely along the lines of me doing Steve a solid. He's done so many for us. It was the least I could do, but
This gives me, I'm just too lazy to go buy the kit. I don't want to buy like a whole kit, just a half kind of put it together and throw it in the pile of hoopties I got. I never get to finish anything. I just half build it and then it kind of gets destroyed a little bit, then sits on the shelf forever.
Scott, would you count that as a finished kit for you? That turret?
I mean, it's out the door.
There you go.
it's
Catch
done.
up to me, Scott.
Yeah, right.
So going back, I mean, Steve, I don't think I know anyone that you haven't done a solid for. Hell, the first day I met you, you bought me a milkshake at Denny's. I mean, on our first date, practically.
Yeah. No, I think you'd have to search really far and hard to find somebody that truly hates me. I don't know. I just live life by one rule. Don't be a dick.
That's a good rule.
That is a
best
good
rule.
rule.
I got more of them. My daughter gets tired of it, but I'm like, oh yeah, rule number 1: never ride an animal big enough to trample you. Rule number 1: don't be a dick. Rule number 1.
Rule number 1: give free stuff.
The older I get, the less funny I am.
You certainly had a lot of friends at Nats. I think I stopped count for how many times that you'd walk away and they're like, hey man, where's the guy who runs this? Is it the same Steve? Where's he at? I got to meet him. Like, he gave me a box full of free stuff when I ordered something from him. I got to thank him.
Yeah. Yeah, I like giving people little goodie bags. Like, in the bottoms of molds, I just add extra tarps and crates and stuff, and I throw them into a big bin, and then I just give them a little baggie of samples. It's like the Breaking Bad business model. You get a book.
Yeah, seriously. Steve is one of those guys you have to reverse negotiate with.
Yeah.
Like when we're at Nats packing up to go, I handed him some money for a couple of 1/16 scale resin sets. He just starts handing me stuff. I'm like, no, dude, that's enough. Stop giving me stuff.
I don't know. It's just stuff, and I make it. I can make more. It's not, it's not a big deal all the time. TJ placed a little order with me, and since he's kind of in the family, I sent him a huge pack bag. So, he spent like $20, and I sent him like I don't know, it was a pound or two.
Well, at Nats, it was brilliant. You kind of had the grab box right there, and people would walk by, and I think we had to at least I reminded a bunch of people, like, these are free. Go ahead and take them. They're like, what? They're free? I can take this?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, Steve wants to give you samples. He wants you to see his stuff.
It's like a candy basket.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know. It's easy to be nice, so be nice. If you're nice to people, and I don't advertise, I don't do anything like my customers. I just rope them into being my sales force, and everybody does it.
Yeah.
They're happy to talk about the things they're doing and working on.
Look at your minister of propaganda, Mike. He's making you, keychains, business cards. Like,
yeah.
He says hi, by the way. I just texted him.
Yeah. Next time I'm on here, we'll have to get him on there too, so he can keep me in line and take notes for me. But no, Mike's one of the guys. Like, my friend Pat's real good about it too. And in Dublin, when I don't make a lot of mistakes. I work all alone. I'm a one-man show, and but I can switch a set here and there, or I can miss a big air bubble or something. And but if they see somebody talking about it online, like, I get a message like that. It's just like, hey, this guy's got a problem, and it comes from Mike or Pat or somebody. I got a lot of people that are protective of me, and I contact the person and I make it right. I send them some goodies, and it just happened recently. I'd missed switched like Sherman set 13 with 15, and had sent some to Fields of Glory in the UK, and a guy in the Jersey Islands bought one, and it was the wrong one, and so he said something about it online that he got the wrong thing, and so we worked it out. Fields of Glory sent him a couple extra sets, and he was super stoked, and we made a friend out of the deal. And the guy's got an awesome YouTube channel doing cool stuff, and it's just awesome. If you handle a mistake properly, everybody's happy. That's great.
Well, that's just good customer service. Everybody makes mistakes, but it's the ones that own up to it and make it right that get the reputation for being good guys.
Yeah, exactly.
For the listeners out there, I think, John, you knew Steve beforehand, right? Or is that when you met him for the first time? Was that Nats?
Just a little bit. We became best friends over a milkshake at Denny's at midnight on a weeknight in Vegas.
We are not.
You had 2 straws and.
Oh yeah, and Mike was there as our arbiter. He was our chaperone.
We had 3 straws actually.
You gave us that table and we hung out with you, and in 15 minutes, I swear we all felt like we'd known you forever. So
yeah, that was cool.
Really appreciate it.
Well,
it was a lot of fun.
Until Doug went around the other side of the table, and then I didn't recognize him because he went around and he was like trying to pick out some 148 stuff, and I was like, it just I was losing my mind by the end of it. When he was behind the table, we were all best friends. He got on the other side of the table and I was confused.
Hey man, October 15th, the rooms drop in Omaha, so we got to get them. Embassy Suites.
Well, I might have a dilemma because my wife has taken a bunch of students to study abroad in Dublin for a month.
Yeah.
She needs a co-buddy, somebody to help scurry these kids around, and happens to be at the same time. So I got to discuss this with her.
Maybe we swing Mike, the Minister of Propaganda, into your chief of operations role, and we can run the vendor table for you.
I've been coming up with crazy ideas. I'm like, okay, I load up all the stuff in the truck and I drive it and I park it at John's house and I give him the key in case he needs to go get some landscape materials. And then I fly back and I show up in Denver and then drive the truck to Omaha, wherever the hell that is, and then do the show. And then I don't know what the hell would happen after that, but get back to
We'll make it work. We'll get it. We'll get you your truck back one way, shape, or form.
But no, yeah, I'm thinking about it. I don't know if she can move the dates. It's nothing's quite booked yet. So I'm trying to see if we can. I don't know. I'll talk to her tomorrow and we'll see what we can. Because I'd like to do both. I wouldn't mind being in Dublin again for a month and see all my friends.
Oh, that'd be great.
But if I go to Omaha, then there's enough years behind Value Gear now that people come looking for me, and that's really awesome. Instead of going, yeah, maybe I'll try one set. They come to me and they pick up handfuls of stuff, and they're like, how much? It's awesome.
Oh, it's great, man. That's the kind of experience you want. You want people coming and say hi to you, talking to you. It's more than a transaction. It's it's a customer relationship. They're not even customers. Exactly. They're friends, like what we're doing right now.
Exactly.
So it's awesome.
And it's all about the community.
That's right. All right, so listeners, we're going to rewind. As always, we really appreciate you joining us as we talk scale modeling, the best hobby out there, as we like to say. And as always, we have great content and discussion for you. So we feature another fantastic interview that I'm really excited for people to hear with the renowned Israeli modeler, Ilya Yut. Ilya is a terrific modeler and also very interesting person, so be sure to stick around for that.
The Plastic Posse podcast is sponsored by Tankraft. Nothing can ruin your day or your Tankraft cutting mat like spilled liquid cement. Tankraft has the solution, the glue base. Milled from solid 6061 green anodized aluminum, this thing will keep your bench top looking smart and spill free for years to come. I've got one and I love it. The combination of weight and sticky rubber pad on the bottom make them extremely stable. They even come with an optional insert to accommodate most major brands of square and round bottle cement. Pick one up with their beautiful Pro Modeler mats and start your next build on a bench to be proud of. Remember, Tankraft products come with a 30-day warranty, and don't forget the Plastic Posse exclusive offer. Use the code POSSE15 at checkout for your 15% discount. Head on over to Tankraft.com. That's Tankraft, Tankraft.com, and order your very own Tankraft glue base and cutting mat. It just looks better on the bench. Now it's time to talk about all of our great posse deputies out there, and we have some catching up to do. Episode 31 of the Triple P is also sponsored by Darren McGinnis, Gerard Henry, Clinton Mulder, Rick Lewis, Terry Wilkinson, Matt O'Mara, Eric Daglish, Mark Burgess, Eric Simmelmeyer, and our deputy marshals, the Posse Outriders, Grant, Paul, David, Ethan, Jamie, Steve, and Rick. These Posse members all help bring you this podcast. If you would like to make a donation to the Posse, just go to our website, plasticpossepodcast.buzzsprout.com. In the upper right-hand corner, there is a heart icon. Just click this and then donate any amount you would like.
Thanks, TJ. Just a reminder, the Posse is just one of several scale modeling podcasts out there. Just head on over to modelpodcasts.com and you'll find links to many of them.
Thanks for that, Scott. We're just going to take this minute to talk about some of the latest news out there in the hobby world. A couple releases just within the last month have kind of shattered people's minds in a sense, and especially I would point to the Border Models / Wingnut Wings Lancaster. And before I get into it, we have to quote Ian Malcolm from Jurassic Park, where life finds a way. The Lancaster wasn't going to go into the depths of some storage unit with the Holy Grail and the Ark of the Covenant. So it surely found its way to Border Models, and I believe they bought a few other molds as well. I saw some chatter about, but regardless, the Lank is gorgeous. I think it's awesome that it's coming out. Sprue shots are everywhere over the internet. Box art is gorgeous. I'm just really happy to see it out. I was lucky enough to see it in South Carolina. There are test shots of the full build and then some of those nose sections as well, which I don't know if they're coming out with, but surely that kit is just fantastic. And Scott, I know you've been drooling over it for the last week as well.
What I think the legacy of this kit is going to be is the oil canning work that they've done. It's not overdone like you've seen on some kits in the past. And I think it might set a standard, especially in that larger scale for aircraft models to come.
No, for sure.
Sorry, what is oil canning?
When you have like thin sheet metal, like on the side of a destroyer, for instance, or the side of an aircraft, as that skin moves because of the air or the water, it starts to create like a pattern, like your sheet metal buckles basically. And so that's what you're seeing.
Okay, awesome. That sounds really cool.
Another announcement that we really like, and certainly I think everybody's talked about before, is the new Razor Crest 170. It's a beast. Marcus Nichols posted on the Tamiya Model Mag's Facebook page some sprue shots, and I was honestly shocked how big it is. So that is really exciting. Doug, I'm sure you'll buy one, right?
I'll buy 3. Okay, I'll buy one. I'll buy one. And if the quality is anywhere near as good as it looks like it's going to be between the molding quality and the breakdown and everything, I'll have multiples. It just gives me hope that maybe Revell with their Star Wars stuff is going to be taking a better approach to their future kits. Something, bring up the quality, because I would buy a lot of them if they had them.
Yeah, for sure. TJ, you'll definitely buy one, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, I'm not a brand snob so much. Like, if it's a good kit, it's a good kit. I'll buy it. I don't care who makes it. Right now, I think everyone pretty much understands that Revell's Star Wars kits aren't great, and that's just a fact. But if this one's as good as those shots that Marcus put up, and it looks to be, I think I've mentioned to Scott before, I mean, that looked like borderline Bandai quality. I mean, it looked really crisp. And it's the freaking Razor Crest, man. The ship is awesome. So, yeah, hell yeah, I'll be buying one. Even if it sucks, I'll still probably buy one.
Yeah, I'll have one.
Like you guys brought up, it isn't just the molding quality, which looks really, really terrific, but it's the way they've broken down the hull, and they've got that whole lower hull as one piece. I think that shows some real innovation, and I'm excited. I'm really excited for it.
The last one we have, and I think everybody's going to buy one, and give Steve another opportunity.
Whoa. Everybody except you, because you're going to get a free one. Listeners, mark this down. John is going to get a free Hellcat.
I'll buy one too. I'll buy one. But Marcus Nichols, kudos to him. I really appreciate him sharing all the forward shots of these things. So he posted, I think, every sprue and detail shots of every sprue on the Tamiya Model Mag page. Certainly a gorgeous kit and an opportunity for Value Gear. So Steve, do you see yourself maybe making a pack for it at some point?
I will, but I may not do it right away. I mean, I'm not a competitive person. I mean, everybody's like, oh, you got to get it first. You got to do it first. And it's like, I don't know, people are still going to be building it in 10 years. It's okay if I don't come out right away, give me some time.
Yeah. And especially some of you have a lot of sets already that are easily applicable to it.
Yeah. But I do want to fill those little racks on the side. I made a set for the Academy that's just sitting here. it's just not, I just haven't done enough to get it all done. So yeah, as soon as that one, I get them both, and I'll put them both out together. Then I can add them all to my packaging, and then add a bunch of shit that I don't have yet.
John, I know you've been really, really busy, but I don't know if you got a chance to kind of really dive into those. But if you look at the sprue on the top of the hull, the exhaust manifold for the Hellcat was like a welded tube steel assembly. And to me has molded that down in a recessed area. And then the removable grates is a separate part that you set down in the hull. I mean, that's typical to me engineering. That's just amazing.
And I'll be honest, I even love the figure that it has in it. You know, the figure reminds me of kind of something from Alpine Miniatures range, where it's got, you know, the commander that's just standing in front of his tank and has that Alpine pose, I'll call it, because that's what they're known for. So I'm certainly looking forward to it. The canvas cover looks great too. And I think there's an option to do both canvas cover and bare mantlet, if I'm not mistaken.
I freaking hope so.
I hope so too.
I'm going to go on record and say I am not a fan of canvas covers on mantlets. I think part of it is painting canvas to look good is hard for most people. And I've seen so many builds where it's immaculate and then the canvas cover just doesn't match everything. And I get it. The canvas is hard to paint. I'm not that good at it. That's why, if you notice, I don't build anything that has a canvas cover on it. Plus just posability, you know, if you want to depress the gun for a scene or something. But I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not the biggest Hellcat fan. Like, it's cool, don't get me wrong, I like it. I saw one in person 2 weeks ago at the tank farm here in Nokesville. It's about an hour from my house. Totally rad. I think that Hellcat was actually in service too. I think that's what they were saying. So it was pretty neat. It was in service in World War II and then in the Czech Republic, where it was knocked out, and you can still see where it was hit. But yeah, it's a pretty slick little machine. So
I think there's a Hellcat at the that Pennsylvania War College place too, or that Pennsylvania.
Yes, at Carlisle. Yes, you're right. It's right outside. Somebody just posted pictures of it on Facebook.
Yeah, I have a couple pictures of it.
Now I'm on the other side of the country and I can't get close to it. So go figure. But so TJ, you mentioned your disdain's a strong word. Maybe it's not, but for canvas covers, I've looked at these sprue shots and I think we might be surprised to see that there is not a bare mantlet. That's unfortunate, I feel. And I'm looking at the front plate of the turret and it looks like the gun elevation system is actually fixed. So your canvas cover and the gun is, that's all she wrote on this. That's surprising, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing, but at the same time, it's a new tool Hellcat from Tamiya, so I'm not gonna cry.
I, for one, am glad they put a canvas cover in the thing, because it'll be one less thing people try to ask me for. Now they're going to ask me, can you make like the actual mantlet without the canvas cover? No, I'm not good at that stuff. Like, that's not my thing.
Steve, I'm curious as to your take on that. Like, injection molding's come a long way, but I mean, are they capable of making an injection molded canvas covered mantlet to the same degree that you can do it as somebody that works with resin?
I probably not. It's probably always going to look a little bit sterile, a little bit just too manufactured. It's probably come a long ways since. Originally, in the 70s or whatever, that probably didn't matter. It could look kind of sterile and nobody would care. But as the hobbies changed, people would be more, more apt to have it look more realistic. I think if the time's put in, I'm sure it could look more proper.
All right, now I'm going to kick it over to Scott.
So if any of you out there are on Verbal, which is VURBL.com, the Plastic Posse is now on Verbal.com. We plan on adding new platforms if it's appropriate, and we're excited about that. John, you've got some news as well on potentially a new IPMS chapter, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a spotlight to Stephen Reed and David Woods. They're looking to form an IPMS chapter in the area near Savannah, Richmond Hill, and Hinesville, Fort Stewart, Georgia area. So I saw Stephen post something on Facebook, and I just wanted to give him a shout out. So if any of our listeners are in that Georgia area, please feel free to shoot us a message or reach out to Stephen Reed. He posts a lot on our Facebook page and get connected and try to support his local club. So again, listeners, please give Stephen Reed a shout out. And if you're in the Georgia area, give a consideration to his new club he's forming. So with that, as we talk about IPMS and forming clubs and groups and really pushing the hobby forward in that sense of camaraderie, I want to kick it over to TJ and Steve to talk about something that the Posse talks about every week. That is the group build for next year's IPMS Nationals.
So, like John said, moving over to the hot topic for next year's IPMS National Convention is our M3, M4 Sherman /Lee /Grant Grizzly / whatever you want to call it, group build. So here's an update. As of today, which is October 9th, 2021, we have 74 entries. That's spread out between, I want to say, over 55 people. There's quite a few people doing more than one. I just got 2 people in the group today, Greg James and Daniel. I don't want to say your last name because I'll probably screw it up. And his son, Hank, are going to build a tank together, which is super, super cool. That's really neat. I think his son's a little bit younger, so that's pretty cool. There are probably more people that want to join. I've been really busy with work and a bunch of other stuff going on, so I haven't probably gotten to everyone. I'm going to spend some time going through my messages to see if I miss anyone, because if you know how Messenger works, sometimes you don't always know someone's messaging you if you don't see the notification, because then like Facebook kind of like hides those messages for whatever reason. So I have to go back and look and check. So I will get to you. If you have not heard from me, I promise I will get to you and we will figure something out. I know I mentioned it before, but yes, we still do not have a lot of what I like to call the minor nations spoken for. I'm working on a list of those nations and potential modeling subjects. Again, I feel like a slacker because I haven't gotten that out like I wanted to. But again, I'm going to go ahead and use the same old excuse. I've been really busy with work. I work long hours, and by the time I get home, 2 kids, so I just got a lot of stuff going on. Sorry, but we will get it all sorted out. The group, the actual Facebook group that we have going, is really cool too. I think there's almost 60 people in the group. There's been a lot of good work. I've been posting a bunch of stuff in there because I've been slaving away on this Asuka M4 composite hull, which has been really fun. And I've been posting most of my update pictures in there. So that's kind of where we are with just the basics of the group build. Since we have Steve from Value Gear with us today, we are going to go ahead and announce that Steve and Value Gear are sponsoring the group build.
Nice.
So if TJ has 65 entries in there, who are the other 7 entries?
Yeah, I don't have that. I think I have 3. I think John has more than I do.
Yeah, but you still got like 9-10 months to go.
Yeah.
That's like at least 60 more tanks.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna give it my best. So so when it comes to sponsoring our group build, what is that going to get the entrance in the group build? Is there something? Do we have a deal worked out for them?
Sometimes I'll run a sale, and since I'm just one dude, like what I'll do is I'll say, buy 2 sets, get 1 free. I haven't done it in a long time because I've been just getting plenty of business. But when things get really slow, I'm like, hey, buy 3, get 1 free or something like that. So yeah, if we say, if somebody in the group build buys a set, just send me a message and tell me another set, and I'll send them 2 sets. But they got to be in the group build. How's that?
Yep.
Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I know I've pushed your products myself in the group build, and we've got your website linked up on the top already, just because you're an awesome dude and you are a valuable commodity to the hobby community. So that alone is enough for me to say, hey, you guys need to support Steve and his awesome products. And like I was telling you before, I already have like 2 drawers full of your stuff, and it's all awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I actually looked you up, and I saw you had ordered it several times. I didn't realize that.
He's on the gold customer list.
I'm gonna have to import Mike over here so he can help me keep up with shit, because I can't. I just can't. I can't always match all the like all the online names and forum names and pet names and their wives' name. I can't remember. I mean, I got a good head for names, but it's just too much. I mean, I need something more than just a couple of emails to remember everybody. You got to have a name like Stonehammer or some shit, something really, really clicks,
To everyone in the group build and not in the group build, frankly, if you want stowage, and Steve offers more than just Sherman stowage, German and universal sets, and they're all great. And even like wargaming scale for like bolt action, which is 156 scale, which is a weird scale. I even have some of those because I have a little M4A2 Sherman for my Marine Corps bolt action. It's got your stowage all over it.
Yeah, he's also got diorama bases. And what I picked up at Nats, I love the HESCO barriers. I really want to make a little fob or cop diorama, and these are going to be perfect. So, Steve, they came out really nice, and I think it's an awesome addition to your catalog. So I'm hoping to get them painted up soon. They're super crisp, really nice.
Yeah, I used like year 2005 wire instead of 2011 wire on them. So, no, I'm just kidding.
I got to throw them away. Your Yelp review just got a little bit lower.
Well, it's at 110%, so I can afford to lose 1%.
I think I'm going to try to have a piece of value gear on every Sherman I build for the group build. That's going to be my promise to you.
I know. I've probably mentioned it before, but my favorites are the little toolboxes.
Yeah,
I'm trying to like make that like my thing. I've only done 2 because up until recently I wasn't really confidence thing. I didn't really want to put stowage on my tanks, and then same thing with figures, but that's a whole other thing. But now I like to put stowage. So if I do stowage, I usually find some sort of toolbox and I like to paint it red, no matter what color my tank is. So I've done it on a Sherman. I did it on my Crusader. I'm going to do it on my next Sherman. There'll be a little red toolbox. I kind of want that to be like my little signature. So those little toolboxes are great.
Yeah, Mike's been doing it too. I'm going to make a mold of just those little toolboxes so I can load you guys up.
I like your the potato crates. Yeah. I think those are pretty cool. I think you have one with bread as well and a few vegetables too.
I like anything that he does with a tarp over the top of it. The way that he drapes those tarps and gets the folds and the details showing through him. He's a master at that. Again, talking about Steve in the third person.
I understand gravity. There you go. Bread and potatoes.
There's the bread. Yeah.
So, like, to make those potatoes, I would roll out epoxy putty into like just a long, skinny cylinder, and then I just pick a piece off and roll it in my fingers and drop it, and drop it, and drop it, and drop it until I get a big pile, and then I put them into a crate. It takes forever.
I gotta say, man, we always learn something on the Posse. I mean, now we're learning how to sculpt potatoes. That's pretty cool.
So, Steve, I think your stowage is great, and we talked a little bit about this at Nats. So you make really good universal stowage, and what I've started to do, integrating your stowage onto vehicles, is roll out a tarp with epoxy, that 2-part AVES epoxy sculpt, and then put that between the hull and your piece of stowage. That way it looks really conformal and nice. And I find it's a quick thing to build stowage on the back of a tank.
Yeah, there's a video on Andy's Hobby Headquarters where I did that, trying to demonstrate that, because I mean that's what I want people to. I some people are like, why don't you make this whole thing and just drop into place? And it's like, because then 10 guys built the same tank with the same stowage. It's boring, But by giving people bits to work with, and maybe a little education on putty, you can build something that looks just 10 times more realistic. And I think that's a good thing to do.
Well, you mentioned looking realistic. Some of your newer stuff in 1/16 scale, you're not using putty for the tarps. Are you using Kleenexes or textured towels? What were you talking about at Nats again?
Well, you know how a big thrift store I am, right?
Oh yeah,
I
wouldn't be Value Gear without it.
I found this at the thrift store. I found this at the thrift store. Well, I used a really nice bed sheet to make the 1/16 tarps.
Yeah, it's got that really nice texture, and I think some of the stowage painters out there are really going to love that when they get into it. It'll pick up everything. So no, that was really cool.
Yeah,
and your new buckles too.
I made a bunch of I already have a bunch of universal tarp rolls that are 1/16, and they were all made out of the exact same bed sheet. So all this new stuff is also out of that. But yeah, I'll just take the bed sheet, cut a big piece, and stuff it full of epoxy putty and some paper towels, and I actually just roll it up, kind of tie it off to give it a little some strap strap marks and go from there. Then go back and add the straps.
I got a general question, and you might not know this, but how many pieces of stowage do you think you've made for Value Gear?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Probably into the thousands, I bet.
I've probably rolled 1 million tarps. I bet. I mean, I don't know. I can do them so easy now that it's like if you just came over and watched my dog, I could probably do like 100.
And let's talk about your casting. So you're using one-piece molds, and you'll use a vacuum caster, if that's the right term.
Yeah,
and it's pretty straightforward, right?
Well, yeah. So anything that's flat-bottomed, I do in a one-piece mold, and I use a vacuum pump to draw the air bubbles to the bottom where nobody cares about them. And then I also do things like engine decks and more complicated parts. I'll do what they call an envelope mold, and that's where you sort of put a seam or a crease, or cut the mold so you can get the piece out. And those have little pour plugs on them, but I try to make them where they snap off, and then I'll use those as like filler in like a big truckload or something. So I try not to waste anything. So the envelope molds for more complicated things, where you basically cast the piece inside of a larger block, cut the sides so you can get the piece out. Those are pressure cast.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten a piece of yours that has an air bubble in
it. You find a little one here and there. Not too bad. And I don't use mold release either, so the parts aren't all greasy or stinky or anything like that. I use
interesting
talcum powder.
So, while we're still talking about group builds, just a reminder that we still have our TIE Fighter group build going on, our Rockfields Model T-3485 group build going on, and our Spitfire Mark I Battle of Britain build going on. So, look for those on Facebook, join them up, follow along. They're all cool builds, or cool groups with lots of good builds. And we'd also like to give a little bit of a shout out to our buddies over at the Model Geeks who just launched their new A4 group build. I do not have an A4 yet, or really any airplanes other than that one Spitfire. So if I can find one that's halfway decent to build, I will probably get in on that too, because it is a pretty cool little plane. I don't know a whole lot about them because, like I've said a million times, I'm not a plane guy, but they do look cool. And I got to support our buddies over at the Geeks because they're all really super good dudes.
Well, I'm definitely part of that one. I bought an A4M from Hasegawa just for that build. My favorite a jet aircraft of all time, is the Skyhawk. Scooters are awesome.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. It's a great little airplane, really inexpensive, does the job, really tough little plane, and a million really cool paint jobs. We got to see some of the Draken A4s when we were down at Nats over at Nellis. They were all just unbelievably cool. Lots of foreign nations use them. It's going to be great.
I ran into an A4B in South Dakota 2 weeks ago, of all places, just sitting out at this little military vehicle museum. I didn't expect to see it. I didn't even go to the museum. It was closed, but there was an A4B just sitting outside. So I went and got a picture of it, and that was pretty cool.
Nice. I love the Israeli ones as well. Draken and Israeli is 1 and 2 for me. So I will be on the search, and I will participate as well. It's the least I can do because I know some of them are joining us. So great community. I hope some of our listeners join them as well because they're a good group of guys.
Hey, John, if the plan is still for us to come over and give you a hand unpacking, I've got an Israeli Skyhawk I can hook you up with.
Oh, man. You'll help me unpack and you'll give me a kit?
Yeah, but you're gonna smoke some kind of animal product for it, right? I mean,
I'll cook half a pig for you, man. This is good.
Oh, sweet. I'm getting the better end of that deal.
That sounds like the deal. I will not be participating in the Skyhawk group build because I don't know diddly shit about airplanes. Like, there's no way in hell I could do that. I'm going to force myself to get this kangaroo done. I get so distracted. I mean, I have to shovel shit off of my bench sometimes just to fix something, Yeah, I'm going to hook this kangaroo up with some stowage, man. Like a bunch of cool stuff. I got ideas.
Nice.
All right. Doug, I'm going to kick it over to you, and so you can go over a little bit of feedback.
We had a lot of feedback from the last episode, and a lot of it we're not gonna mention anybody by name, but the interview with Jason Champion in episode 30, a lot of people really enjoyed it, and a lot of Posse members reached out to us and shared their own experiences with anxiety, PTSD, depression, among other things. And we want to thank you all for all the thoughts and your willingness to discuss them. Anyway, let's get into this. Patty Pat. He was looking forward to that interview, and he said it was a great feeling to be able to apply his past experiences with PTSD and anxiety and how he overcame it to help Jason through. Having a shoulder to lean on, especially someone who's been there, is really helpful. Don't be scared to reach out. It's a valuable and important episode. Peter Fidloksky. I laughed so hard when Scott mentioned the new group logo. By the way, I'm Hungarian, not Polish, although my name sounds Polish or is Polish.
I'm going to go ahead and touch on that group logo. My stickers got lost by UPS, so I've contacted Sticker Mule, who I bought them from, and I want obviously new ones printed because I spent money. So when I get those, I'll be sending them out to everyone. I just emailed them. I want to say yesterday afternoon. I've not heard back yet, but I want my damn stickers, so because they're awesome.
Yeah, great logo design, Peter.
Michael Libero, I've always appreciated that from the start you've mentioned mental health awareness and that you constantly push to keep the hobby positive. Well done. We also heard from RK. He, among other things, he said, sorry, John Bonani and TJ Haller, but hearing you say that you get foxed by pigments made me feel a little less sad about my own inability to get that evil devil dust to do what I want it to.
I would still like to mention that I watched all of Mike's custom tailored dust pigment live stream the other day, and mine doesn't look like his, no matter how hard I try. Yeah, I swear he made a deal with the devil. They met on the crossroads. I don't know what he traded to get to learn how to do pigments like he did, but I hope it was worth it.
All right, and one other thing that R said, and it just kind of made me laugh. He said he tried to picture us based on our voices before he saw our photos from Nats. He imagined Scott as a cool professor type, John as a clean-cut businessman type, TJ as a dude in a leather jacket, and Doug as a teenage high school football type. He sounds very young. I'd say you nailed me, dude.
Yeah, he got him.
Nailed us all.
I do own a leather jacket. I do. It was my dad's leather jacket from the 70s. It's brown. I don't ever wear it. I only have it because it was my dad's.
I feel like you need to wear that to a show now.
I don't think it might be a little too small. I feel like I would pull like a Chris Farley and go to lean in, and it would just, my bulgy muscles would just rip through it. I think that's what would actually happen. Yeah.
Just like Chris Farley, right? The bulging muscles ripping through. Yeah. Jake Isley said, I'm only halfway through now, but I agree that the Jason Champion interview was really great. Nice of you guys to give him time to talk without any interruption or follow-up, just straight up having him let it rip. Darren McGinnis says he fully appreciated the sympathetic way the show handled the subject of mental health in the hobby. It's the hobby that keeps me sane after a long week of shifts on the line and listening to you. Makes bench time all the more enjoyable. Thanks for what you do. We got a lot of other responses along the same lines, and we really appreciate it. And we want you to know that we understand that there's a lot of you that don't feel comfortable sharing online your struggles. But if you ever need voice to talk to, an ear just to listen, give one of us a call. Give us a shout out. We're here for you. We'll be happy to talk if you need someone.
Yeah, appreciate that, Doug. And also want to mention episode 32, which will be the one following this one. We're also going to kind of revisit the topic, and we'll have a guest that gets into that as well. It's not something that we're going to stop talking about. It's really important that we're all here for each other, and we're going to continue to make sure that people hear that message from us. So
awesome. Well, that's it for our feedback for this episode. TJ, it's time for social media shoutouts.
Before we jump into that, just want to remind everyone that we do have an Instagram account. It's at Plastic Posse Podcast, I think. I think it's all three. I'm sorry, I should know that. I'm the one that runs it, but it's late. I'm tired. And we also have a Twitter account, and that I know for a fact is at Posse Podcasts. Got it right the first time. I'm going to start with YouTube, and I think Ivan added these. Of course, he's not here to tell us all about them. We have Flying S Models, and then he also mentions Mark at Edinburgh Modeling Man Cave. Mark, I do know that's Mark Ewing. We are friends on Facebook. He's in a lot of the same groups we are. Really good dude. pretty good modeler, pretty entertaining YouTube channel. He does a lot of vlog style videos where he'll just talk about his builds. He'll show off his builds. It's just a really cool guy.
Yeah, TJ, on that Flying S Models, one of the videos, I actually was a subscriber, and he takes older monogram kits and applies a lot of really modern finishing tools, but builds them kind of out of the box more or less and just finishes them really well. He did a monogram P39 Aerocobra from that classic, 1970s kit that we've probably all built at one point or another. And it's a great video. So it's a cool channel. Yeah. And Mark's channel is fantastic. He's he posts a lot of his work in our Plastic Posse group as well as on his own channel. So yeah, he's a great modeler.
Moving over to Facebook, I think this is another one added by our pal Ivan, who is not here tonight. I would like to remind everyone that. He chose Swamp Donkey Scale Models, which, holy cow, that is a cool ass name. He seems to be primarily an aircraft modeler, and if you go to his Facebook page, the very first thing you see is a really good Tamiya 148 scale F-14A Tomcat. It was a commission build, and it's pretty damn good. I'm a sucker for Tomcats. I love Top Gun. I mean, everybody does. It's a sweet plane. It's a pretty good build.
Yeah, I like his Pucara as well. He's doing a lot of modern aviation. His Harrier's really nice, so I just liked him. Good call, Ivan.
Well, and I want to shout out his profile pic. His logo is just rad. Looks like you've got a zombie donkey here. And it's pissed, and it looks cool as heck.
All right, I have one for Instagram. It is J Richards Scale Models, and that's J, the letter J, Richards _scale _models Instagram account. I think this was just another Instagram account that, I spent a lot of time on Instagram account, and Instagram is pretty good at recommending pages or accounts, I guess, that you would be interested in based on what you look at, that almighty logarithm. So I think I found his just by accident, and I checked it out, and it was pretty good stuff. And also, I think according to his Instagram account, he is a writer for Michigan Toy Soldier, who does a pretty good a journal, I guess you would. It's some sort of publication. I don't know exactly what you would describe it as. And the guy's name is Jacob, and he does a lot of wargaming stuff, but like the military wargaming, so like bolt action, the 156 scale stuff. He's got a pretty cool Stug, some sort of weird thing with a missile launcher on the side of it. I think that looks like some sort of sci-fi thing. He does a lot of science fiction too. Really good stuff. Really well-rounded modeler. Also does fishing lures, so that's pretty sweet.
Are they like flies?
No, they're like
a lot of people are doing that. A lot of people are really into that these days. Like they'll sculpt and cast fishing lures.
Yeah, I mean it looks like a crankbait. That's what it looks like to me. It's pretty cool. I don't know if he sculpts them, but they're pretty sweet.
On YouTube, there's a Barbarossa Models, and he did a brilliant diorama. He's from the Jersey Islands, and he did a diorama of one of the bunkers that's there, and all of the German soldiers were in grayscale, and then he had some modern people color walking around the bunker, and it's absolutely brilliant. It's on YouTube.
Cool. I will definitely be checking this out.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It reminds me of something I saw in a magazine a long time ago. They had like an old plane crash, but then they had all the figures in grayscale, like the crew that came out of it. There were people like taking pictures of the plane. I think it's a really cool idea. It kind of goes with the Sprue Cutters Union had that guy, can't think of his name, but he did a book about the story, like how to do diorama stories.
Oh, Marvan Giles. Yeah, I have his book.
Yeah.
It's the third AK diorama book.
Yeah, that was a good interview, but I think this is one that I think kind of supports that. I mean, it's just a cool picture. I mean, a cool diorama.
Yeah, I just got to his page. I am subscribing right meow.
All right. Doug, did you have a wild card to add?
Yeah, I've got this. There's a guy at Volvo Seung Bum. We'll have to put a link because he's Korean, I believe. He does Gundam, and he doesn't do clean Gundams. These things are nasty, beat up, like highly worn machines, and they're cool as heck. Lots of damage, some dioramas, some just very, very cool stuff. Highly, highly recommend you check this out. The level of detail with damage. This guy would stand out at any model show. I mean, he would be one of those standout modelers. So yeah, we'll definitely put a link in for this guy because it's amazing.
As always, we'll add these links to the Plastic Posse podcast Facebook page, and they will be in the show notes as well.
Thanks for that, TJ. And I always love that segment to find out new modelers. So I certainly have some new subscribes and likes. Now we're going to jump into a segment of the episode where each of us kind of brings what we have on our mind and just talk about it and have, mini discussions. And, for my discussion point this week, it really goes to a big thank you to everyone throughout my time of just moving. I haven't been able to build much at all, really. What's kept me through it and certainly kept me engaged in the hobby is seeing all the work that our, listeners, that are my fellow podcasters and friends are doing. It's really motivating. It's really inspiring and certainly keeps me, well grounded with the hobby as I go through this move across the country. So, a couple people I'd love to just call out. One of them is TJ. He's been doing a great job on his Sherman, and it's really awesome to see the evolution of the build and what he's doing. So I think it's turning out great. Even with your speckling today, it looks awesome. Some other guys online, Ilya Yut, his work is just simply inspiring. And I know we had him on earlier, and his fire truck was super sweet to look at. And again, there's just other groups as well. The group build page is fantastic. So, as my point, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone. Even though I'm not building, I'm in there in spirit, and I'm certainly liking and sharing everything that you're doing. So that's kind of what I want to do, and what you guys helped me through this tumultuous time. It's not been easy, but listening to all the podcasts is another one. The Geeks, Mojo, all the podcasts for that matter, guys down south. The SCU folks and also Stuart up north. I have a lot to catch up on because like I said earlier, I wasn't allowed to listen to them on the ride, or I shouldn't say I wasn't allowed to listen to them. I wouldn't put my wife through that. That's more appropriate. But I'm certainly looking forward to listening to all of them. And I have some videos from Andy's as well to catch up on. So, with that, that's just what I want to say is, even though I'm not building, I'm still being entertained and really inspired by a lot of the work out there. So with that, I just want to say thank you to our listeners and friends.
Does anybody want to give John a raft of shit from Martin, like calling JB's name all over his new video? Oh, that probably hasn't dropped yet, huh?
Well, it'll drop when this drops, right?
Patreons.
Yeah. No, that'll release this week.
Yeah.
The week this comes out. That was awesome, though.
I had no idea. I just very flattered, flabbergasted.
Oh my God.
Very honored. I appreciate it. Heck, I look up to Martin all the time, and yeah, I again, he's another one that I have to give a shout out for. Throughout this move and not being able at the bench. Certainly a Patreon subscriber there, and if you aren't listeners and you love Armor, please go over and support Martin's channel. We talk about it every episode. But yeah, his latest video was just fantastic, and his Yag Panther is. I have to build one upcoming for a publication, and now I just want to shelve it because his looks just friggin' awesome.
That's a Night Shift, right? Is that who you're talking about?
Yep.
Yeah.
Night Shift.
I watch that all the time. That guy's awesome.
We need to get him some Value Gear swag.
Yeah. What's his problem? All we need is address.
That's right. I think we might have it. You'll get a care package, Martin. Yeah, again, I just want to say keep posting, everyone. Keep sharing your work. I certainly like to look at it. Doug, what's on your mind, man?
I have a couple of things. First, I just want to say, be aware, folks, that I think Bandai Star Wars stuff is going to start showing up on shelves again. I just got notified that the Y-Wings that I pre-ordered back in March have shipped. So I should have those very, very soon. So be aware, if you like the Star Wars stuff from Bandai, some of that stuff's going to be back out very shortly. But what I wanted to really talk about is building while you're traveling. And it's something that we have an upcoming interview with another one of our listeners about. But I was recently on a trip with my wife. We went through to see Devil's Tower in Wyoming and the Badlands National Park in South Dakota. And so I'm sitting in Wall, South Dakota, and my wife goes to bed, and I set up at this little motel table, and I broke out a Gundam and started building. To be honest, I was having fun. Here I am well, way away from home. I brought enough. I brought some sprue cutters. I brought one of my super sanding blocks. I brought a hobby knife, and these are snap together kits. And so I was assembling these pieces, and I had a good time. So do you guys ever build while you travel?
So not travel, but I think I mentioned it before. I have also built Gundams in a similar situation. I used to work shift, which I know I've mentioned probably like a million times. So I would work 4 overnights in a row for 12 hours a night. And I just figured out, since I had a lot of downtime because I was the only person there and I didn't have anything to do to help keep myself busy and help keep myself awake and alert, I could build stuff. And the first thing I thought to build was Gundams, because all you need is, like what you said, Doug, a pair of nippers and a knife and some sort of sanding mechanism, and you're good to go. You don't need to worry about glue. You can sit there, clip your parts out, and stick them together and just enjoy it. And if anyone's built a Gundam, especially a more recent one, how enjoyable they are to put together. I mean, they're I don't want to say works of art, but I guess I'm going to kind of have to say they're a work of art. I mean, they're amazing. Everything about them. That's the closest I've ever come, I would say.
On that kit, everything I put on it, every time I put something on it, I was just kind of smiling because of the fit. It blows my mind that there is an arm piece. I guess both arm pieces came off the sprue, the framing, with 7 points that actually move as a single piece on the sprue, molded that way with moving parts, 7 moving parts on one piece.
Yeah, so it's a real great kit.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually went on a vacation a couple of years to Lake Tahoe with my wife, and she did some crafting with a mutual friend of ours. And while they were doing that, I built a real great Gundam as well. And yeah, those things are just, you open the sprue bags and look at them, and your brain tries to wrap around how you can actually have articulating pieces that slide over the top of each other on the sprue before you've even cut it out. It's just amazing.
Yeah, I did a little building when I was a consultant. I'd travel Monday morning to Thursday night. So usually I'd pack a 48 scale armor kit and work on that in the hotel room during the week. So I am familiar with that as well.
I've been seen rolling some tarp rolls in hotels before.
Well, Doug, thanks for that. Like I mentioned, I know I've certainly done it before. And listeners, if you have some stories about building models in interesting places, feel free to share. We'd love to hear from you. Scott, I'm kicking it over to you. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so recently I watched one of our good friend John Bias's YouTube videos. He drops those on Friday, and he had one that was called "Has the Hobby Lost the Fun? Maybe It's Time for a Change." And he kind of, when he was on the Posse for his interview with us, he talked about how he was primarily an aircraft modeler and then switched over to science fiction, and it kind of revitalized his building. It's a really good video. You can find it on YouTube. It's John Bias Scale Models. It's just a really great little vlog about Mojo and having fun. He shares his experiences. He had gotten to the point where he was going to give the hobby up. He just wasn't getting any enjoyment out of it at all. And by trying a new genre, and it not only brought the fun back in for him, but he tried new skills. He, as an aircraft modeler, was doing a lot of airbrushing, wasn't doing any brush painting, and wasn't doing a lot of weathering as well. And anyway, it's a really good video. So if you guys want to check that out, I think you might enjoy it. It's a good perspective.
I know how that feels. I wouldn't say subject matter, but probably the style of kits. I went from complex builds to out of the box builds mainly, and it really changed how I viewed the hobby and really the enjoyment I found in it. So I can, his theme really resonates with me.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of get that too. I know I've mentioned before, I started with wargaming. I moved to science fiction modeling, and then on to mainly armor now. Still dabbling in science fiction from time to time, and maybe aircraft one day, who knows. But yeah, I also watched that video, Scott, because I've been a long time subscriber of John's YouTube page, and I thought it was really good. I like it. I like his videos where he talks about stuff like that. And I get that. Like I used to do commissions, and I stopped because it like freaking sucks, man. Like it's not fun. I've got one right now that I really need to finish. That I know I mentioned before. I took it because I have a hard time saying no to people I like. But yeah, it's just not. I don't know. Yeah, that stopping doing commissioning was probably the best thing that happened in my painting. It made me feel better about doing what isn't supposed to be a hobby.
Steve, I'm kind of curious, when you're working on new sets and you're casting and stuff, do you ever just clear kind of the work aside so you can have some fun building, so to speak, or is that not how it works in your shop?
Yeah, usually for me, like, I get so busy casting all the time that, to create stuff you got to be in the right mindset. Like sometimes I don't feel like it. But each year, my brother-in-law, he's the type of guy that doesn't understand that grown-ups don't need Christmas gifts or birthday gifts. So he always gives you something. So to get him back, what I do is I build him a model for his birthday or for Christmas or whatever. And everything I've done for him has been something that's fun. Like I took a 1956 Nomad car that I found, guess where? At the thrift store. And I turned it into a zombie plow car. It's all rusted up, and I put a bunch of stowage stuff in the back. And that was really fun to do. Like I'm sick of Tigers and Panthers and Shermans and everything else. I get tired of looking at that stuff. But, another year I built him a kit bash spaceship with a Gillette razor bridge on top, the little clear plastic thing that you get the refills out of. That was the bridge, and I put some ship guns on it, things like that. That was really fun for me. And just recently I built him an ATST that I got at Hobby Lobby, and that was really cool. That was really fun. I'd like to do one of those for myself one day, but yeah, I don't do a lot of model building these days. And since I've been listening to the podcast,
the roof of the ATST, there is a place for you could put stowage up there.
Yeah. There were a couple packs hanging on it, but yeah, I don't know. Listening to the podcast lately, it's kind of pissing me off because it makes me want to build and do something fun, and I just hadn't had the time. So, but that's why I'm excited about the group build, because once I get started, I'll be really excited about this building this kangaroo.
All right, so to bring us home in this segment, TJ, what's on your mind?
I mean, a whole bunch of stuff like always. I kind of want to touch on something that it's in the same vein as what Scott was saying, and that's changing it up, right? And pushing yourself to do something you haven't done before, or something you feel like isn't in your wheelhouse. And I know me personally, I've been doing that a lot lately. I know I briefly touched on the fact that since the last time I recorded, I've started and completed 3 separate projects. Now, none of those projects were really what I would call a full kit, I guess. The 2 that stand out the most are I did a wedgie vignette, and I did a bust. And neither one of those things I've ever done before. And I've always wanted to do both. I know, John, we've talked about it before. Wedgie dioramas or wedgie vignettes, or just wedgies, are awesome. And that's one of those things that's kind of divisive. Like, people are either think they're great or think they're the dumbest thing on the planet. I side on, I think they're great and can be really unique. So I did one. I bought one. I didn't build it myself. I bought it. It's made by Black Dog. And I spent a weekend doing it. And it was pretty cool. I think it turned out really, really good, especially for the time I spent on it. And it was neat to push myself to do something I haven't done before. And then I think the following weekend is when I did the bust that I've had for some time now. It's of George Washington, one of my heroes. I love George Washington. He's the best. And that was another thing. I've never done anything like that before, but I watched a couple YouTube videos. I read a couple articles online, and I grabbed my airbrush and my paint brushes, and I just went to town. And that was another thing. I did it over the span of a weekend, and it was a welcome distraction from Olive Drab, which, I love building Shermans. I love painting Shermans. I like building armor, but sometimes it's good for a break. And I think if you do something you don't normally do, it can make you a better modeler. Like I feel like a more competent modeler now, even though I've only done one bust ever in my life, and I feel more well-rounded just because I have that under my belt. And that kind of goes back to another thing I want to touch on is I was talking to Scott before this, and some of the comments that I get from people on the internet about the fact that I've done a lot of models this year, and it's almost like kind of dismissive over that. Like I can still have a hard time or feel like I'm struggling and something's taking too long. It's almost that gets dismissed because, oh, you've done a lot of models this year. Well, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean I'm not having a hard time doing something, or I feel like this is taking too long just because your version of too long is different than mine. And this year I've been just pushing myself to finish projects and get stuff done, to put another notch on the belt and put another one in the cabinet or give another one to a friend of mine, which is what I've been doing a lot lately too. I've been clearing my cabinet out, just giving stuff away because I just don't want it anymore. I don't need it, and someone else can enjoy it. And those two things kind of go hand in hand. I feel like you should push yourself to do something different, and then also push yourself to finish shit. Like get stuff done. Like you feel better, and I think I feel like a better modeler because I have work that's complete. And even if it's not the best, and it's not the best, and it will never be the best, but I can't remember who mentioned it. It might have even been you, John. Like they're not all going to be award winners, and that's okay. Just get them done. Like, and you'll get better with every single one, or you'll learn something new. Like, like with pigments, I'm not a pigment fan, just like we were kind of joking about earlier, but I want to do a project and use a lot of pigments just because they're there. I have them and I want to use them just because maybe one day I'll be better at them. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know really where I'm going with this. So, I mean, you guys feel free to take over at any point.
I think it's a good point, that each model is different and each model gets better and you learn something from each one. I mean, I see that a lot from guys that post on my page.
You can't get better without just doing it. Just do it. Like Nike's brand, no statement that means a lot in many things in life. Just do it, and you will get better by just doing it. And again, you may think that, oh man, this model's great, I'm going to do a wonderful at a show, and it kind of goes back to what you said, TJ. Not all of them are award winners, and that's okay. And also at a show, it's any given Sunday. It's really subjective, actually. So you might think your model's great, and you're like, oh man, I'm ready, and then you get nothing, and then a kit you bring that you're like, oh, I just threw this together in the last 48 hours, and it takes a first. So don't ever kind of have those thoughts. Just push towards the end. And I'll also say, maybe I guess it goes contradictory a little bit, is it's also okay to just get away from a model. If it's sucking the energy out of you, just, dare I say, even throw it away. When I moved, I threw a lot of stuff away. But I think that's important too, is just to get that fresh, that fresh palette and move on and get something done, to go back to what TJ said.
Yeah, I want to go back to what Steve said. I think it's good, TJ, because you've checked two big boxes. I mean, first of all, you indicated that you enjoyed these new experiences, and that's what this hobby's all about. So big check mark in that box. But more importantly, you use that enjoyment to grow and to expand your skills. And you did things like, I know on the Washington bus, you were collaborating a little bit with Barry over at Small Subjects on the painting on that bust and doing things that you weren't comfortable with. And I know you've been working a little bit with Mike on the pigments, on your new Sherman, that, kind of trying to do a little more there. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think there's, obviously great value in that, because you're enjoying what you're doing and you're growing. So good on you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hey, TJ, thanks a lot for that topic to round out this segment. Every week I do enjoy listening to what everybody has on their mind. So with this, Doug, what's up next?
Well, it's time for the Triple P interview segment, sponsored by Sean's Custom Model Tools, makers of the awesome super sanding blocks. These blocks allow you to have controlled precision sanding that yields fantastic results. Today's interview is with renowned Israeli armor modeler Ilya Yut. Ilya spent some time with Scott and TJ talking about his modeling. He's very candid and colorful, and I know you'll find this interview to be fascinating. Enjoy.
Welcome into another Plastic Posse podcast interview. TJ and I are joined from Israel by Ilya Yut. Ilya, how are you doing today?
I'm okay. Glad to be here on the podcast.
Well, we appreciate your patience. We've had some technical difficulties getting Ilya on here, but he's been kind enough to join us again, and we're excited to talk to him. So, Ilya, you're a very, very well-known armor and vehicle modeler, but give us a little background about yourself. Tell us a little bit about, when you first started modeling, how long you've been modeling, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, the story is rather typical. I started modeling when I was at the kindergarten age, and I believe the first model was some kind of a spacecraft with two guys inside, built mostly by my father. I think my first armor model was some ISU 122 by some Soviet company, and in the 80s I built mostly planes that was available. And then in the 90s, when the Zvezda appeared with the infantry kit, I felt that 35th scale is my thing. I started with figures as much as I could deal with them, and then after several failures, I get on the armor side. And as many guys, the university years was more like music and less modeling, and then I got back into modeling, and it was kind of very different environment. Like in the 90s, before the widespread broadband, or at least dial-up internet, it was more about asking the older guys, how can we do that, or this stuff with limited weathering products, with actual mud being and then it was a kind of a revolution/revelation with the coming of the internet, with all these techniques and information, and then all the weathering products and stuff. And right now my big question is what's going to happen next in the modeling world. I think it's kind of stagnated for 5 or 10 years. There's no revolutionary stuff after maybe the hairspray technique and retaining of the enamel stuff after pigments. I feel that armor modeling is more or less from the weathering perspective and painting the same point where it was 10 years ago. In general, the kit choice is better and better every day, but the techniques, I wonder what will be the stuff that I'll try to test next. Who will be the prophets of the next decade?
Or maybe it'll be you.
I'm not sure. I'm not that innovative.
It sounds like your formative years were when you were in Russia. And if I'm not mistaken, you kind of met Adam Wilder during those years when you were in Russia. Is that right?
Yes. Yes, I met him on several occasions. I had a common friend who has died sadly this year. And so when Adam was in Moscow and I happened to be there, we met on several occasions, like modeling events, his master classes and stuff like that.
Yeah, Adam is a good guy. We've had the opportunity, as you probably know, to speak with him a couple of times, and he's just, besides the fact that his modeling is so inspirational, he's just a good dude.
Yeah, I had his interview and the how do you call it, the round table of the top 3 armor modelers, just to feel where they are comparing to where I am. I enjoyed hearing them chatting around modeling stuff.
Your work is very well known. I mean, I can only speak for here in the United States, but I can tell you that a lot of us here are big, big fans of your own armor models and your own vehicle models.
Thank you.
When did you move over to Israel?
Well, I moved to Israel at the end of 2013, and while getting settled here, I had a kind of several years pause in my modeling. Then, I believe, 2015 maybe, I finished my first model in Israel and then get on. And the last year, almost the entire year, I worked remotely from home, and I had a lot of time for modeling, and that was my record of the quantity of the finished models. Yes, and maybe totally I have finished here more or less the same quantity of models as in Russia since about 2004 till 2013, something about that.
When we spoke before, you were telling me kind of what being a modeler in Israel is like.
Yeah, sure. Well, so my feeling after living in Russia, even not in Moscow, it's kind of desert, modeling desert in terms of getting stuff. You can get almost nothing here locally. There is a nice but really small online shop in the Galilee region where you can get stuff from Vallejo and IKEA and Ammo. But basically, that's it. So a model here and there occasionally, but there's no like proper model shop where you can get all the plastic aftermarket supplies and stuff like that. Like 99.9 of my modeling stuff I get on the internet. Yes, I can get the oil paints here, and I actually bought a tube yesterday, but at an art shop. But that's basically it. All the plastic stuff from abroad, resin, whatever. Speaking of modeling community, there is a club and maybe even two clubs. One of them is definitely the local IPMS. They hold monthly meetings, but I don't attend. I'm not in the club because it's kind of too much of a traffic to get there for me based on the meetings and my location. Here, yes, though Israel is a small country, the traffic is bad in the center of the country in the midweek particular hours, and they don't hold the meetings on weekends. Twice a year, when it's not Corona, they make events. I believe one is a contest, and the other is just general display. So it's only for club members, and for me, like paying $50 a year and to get to two events to participate. Like everyone can get and see what's going on the tables, but to put your stuff on the table, you have to be a member. So for me, it's not an option. I would prefer, $10 for participation or whatever based on the quantity of models as it happen like in the major events. And there are a couple of Facebook groups where people can buy and sell stuff and show their models. That is like to have some community. And that's basically it. There is a tank museum in Latrun where you can get your inspiration, and the entrance is rather cheap, like $8 or so, and you get the ability to photograph and climb like whatever you like. So some of the tanks have the ladders attached for the general public to get easier access, and no one has a problem if you get on other tanks.
Wow.
And inside open-top vehicles. From this point of view, it's much better than any museum. Sadly, there's no runners there.
Going to Latrin would be a dream of mine. I'm a big fan of Israeli armor, and it's got such an interesting history to it. And man, what a great opportunity to be close to it and be able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, they are, I believe, then in process of moving what was in Tel Aviv museum. The Golden Territory was sold to, how do you call it? Real estate development, and the museum is somewhere in between. So I think that a part of collection is already in Latrun, and over the years, hopefully, they will move other stuff. That museum was also great. They had armor and small arms and various stuff. And as for plane modeling, there is a big open-air museum near Beersheba. It's a bit harder to get there without a car. On public transport, it's an enormous open terrain where you can get all these flying things, and even something somehow related to maybe air defense.
Going back to modeling and modeling clubs, when you were in Russia, were you active in modeling clubs?
Well, actually, in my city, there wasn't no modeling club. They tried to do something, but not as much. The modeling kind of communal life, how do you call it, all this interaction between people was around the two shops. Now there is only one left. And people went to the shop and met each other and so on. At the moment, I'm in touch with a couple of guys on the internet that I know from my city. It's kind of medium-sized city, 1 million inhabitants. And of course, in Moscow and in St. Petersburg, the modeling life is much more bigger. They have here and there clubs and events and modeling shops and whatnot.
Martin was telling us that in Slovakia back in the day that modeling was actually like an Olympic sport in some of the Eastern Bloc countries, and that there was a lot of support for it from a government perspective. Did you see anything like that in Russia?
Well, at the moment, there's nothing of this sort. It can be like some local events, and some local authorities will help a little bit here and there, but there's no kind of national program of investing into modeling. And I believe in the communist time there was, well, first of all, getting a kit was a big deal, and foreign kit cost a lot of money, like as any foreign stuff, like people paid almost a monthly salary for a pair of good jeans. And the modeling was about the same idea. The deficit was the motto of the day in Soviet times. A deficit in everything, food and modeling as well. Yet there was modeling, just more about technical, like building stuff from scratch, but not to accuracy, but to kind of racing cars, and I believe something like that. Speaking of approach to judging, in Russia there is its own tradition of what's good and bad. There's kind of an old school approach about the accuracy. To anyone, it's obvious that there should be no bad construction stuff, but there's half of guys that are rivet counting, and the finish is not important if you don't get the right rivet or whatever. And the more modern approach, I think it's shared mostly by younger folks. It's quite the opposite, the Spanish school, out of the box, and go on, have fun with the painting.
So again, it's kind of that emphasis on the technical details, making sure that, if you're building a T-72, that all of the appropriate equipment is accurate and everything with the model is correct.
Yeah, sort of. If this Tiger was made in this specific month, or a T-34 went out on a specific factory, it should have all this specific stuff, including those that no one will see under the belly. That's the thing. For me, personally, modeling activity in Russia was for years about the then most popular modeling contest, an online one. And there was the same attitude that building properly to the last rivet is more important than finishing it. Eventually, I made some effort to get a medal there, a virtual one. And now there's a lot of online modeling going on.
Well, somewhere along the way, you definitely dove into the finish part of it. Your work has amazing finish work as well as accuracy. And
I had a dial-up internet, and I opened a page. The first thing that was displayed was the text, and a lot of text, how the guys built and painted and blah, 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 blah. And then the pictures were loaded, and it was totally boring, like piece of green shit. So I decided, okay, it's not exactly the thing that I want to get. Maybe I should start from the finishing part, and maybe later on get to the rivets and bolts and stuff like that. So that's how my approach was developed.
So when was the first time that you entered a model competition?
Actually, my experience in model competitions, offline one, is very limited, almost none. There were no contests. Maybe there was one in my city, and there was something non-competitive events, several, once in a few years. I believe when I was on a business trip in Siberia, they had a local club event, and I brought there my Chinese M4A4 Sherman with this eyes, a very distinct, and hieroglyphs, so very distinctive finish. And the guy who was the judge didn't like it at all. It was too non-normal, not proper. So yes, not much. The online, yes, I participated on that Russian main contest a lot of times with the various results, and here and there where there is online contest, I send my stuff there. Sometimes I win, other don't.
So when you first met Adam, was that for was he doing a seminar or a clinic or?
Yes, I believe he made a seminar, something along the weathering, color modulation and stuff like that. I was 2 times at Mozon show and visited masterclasses there. And anyway, I believe that Adam's masterclass were the best I attended. He's also good at showing and explaining the stuff that he does. Yeah, and I was sitting close also.
Yeah, that's good. Well, he is a really good teacher.
Yeah, I learned a few tricks from him and something about the stuff to use and how to use it.
I mean, after COVID is over, that you'll be returning maybe to some more interaction with your local community, maybe entering competitions again.
Well, in Israel, maybe, no idea. It's kind of they hold the events in the middle of the week, and it means if I attend, I lose the half of our entire daily salary. I work hourly, so yeah. Maybe like what I really consider, maybe if the travel bans will be removed, I'll try to compete in motion or whatever other European event. Like I was there seeing the stuff, but like bringing models on a plane just to lose, it's too much of an effort.
Yeah, definitely when you're traveling internationally, we can see that would be a challenge.
Yeah, the Eastern Europeans, they drive by car like an hour, 2 or 3, and they are on the location.
You mentioned in Israel, you've got to get most of your kits and your aftermarket accessories online. You know, most of what you're getting locally are just like art supplies and paints. But I mean, it when you order something, does it take a long time to get there, or is that something that comes pretty quick?
Yeah, this shipping is a big deal. The quick thing is only when you order it from AK or MO sites directly. They provide speed DHL shipping. Otherwise, you have to wait. The best time is 2 weeks. I ordered a couple of brushes, and it took 2 weeks, and I was very happy that they arrived so quickly. And on average, we can say it's about a month. And the worst case was at the peak of Corona stuff. It took 4 months to get from Russia.
Wow, that's pretty long time. I think sometimes we're pretty spoiled over here. So
yeah, the US is perfect. My sister living in New Jersey, she uses Amazon. It's like 2 days with the Prime, so for me 2 weeks is a blessing. Month is like general.
Well, I know one of the models that you entered in a competition online, that one was your Merkava 3, and you were recognized for that. Are you inspired by Israeli military models, or is it just sort of you just like what you like?
Actually, living in Israel, I haven't finished here any Israeli subjects, but I have a couple of Shelf Queens, both Merkava and Shermans. And when I'm modeling back in the day, my dad packed my brain, taking that as a joy I have to build Israeli stuff. And I built a couple of models. It was this Merkava 3 Dalet and the Nagmachon. For me, it's still my magnum opus. It's a hardcore resin conversion by Legend before the plastic ones became available. And it was quite a lot of effort to simply build the thing. With the resin, you have to, every part requires a lot of time to prepare it. And I also built several M50 Shermans. I think I finished 2 of them. I have one Shelf Queen and one Shelf Queen M51 Sherman. So that's my record about Israeli subjects. And now I'm more after some fancy color finishes. And Israeli armor, it's about weathering dust and mud effects on more or less the same hockey base. So I consider maybe building a Shotgun Gimel that was announced by Amusing Hobby. We'll see.
All right, TJ, I'm going to hand the ball over to you.
So I want to kind of circle back to something you said when we first started talking, that there's not been any, I guess, revolution in finishing in the last 5+ years. And that's not something I'd really considered until you said it. And that's an interesting point. You're right. There's not really any new techniques, so to speak, but I would counter with, even without a step forward in technique, just the actual finishes now are so much more complex and, I mean, just ridiculous in a good way compared to, say, 10 years ago. Would you agree with that?
Well, I haven't collected this amount of statistics to speak about the average quality of models, maybe, but for me, there's still stuff by Adam Wilder, who's, for example, metal finishes on his Prague Uprising Hetzer or of his Griller. is just superb. And I learned from his articles about them. And I don't think that today these models are dwarfed by big quantity of average models. So maybe like you see with the Facebook and stuff like that, more models and modelers who crack on like cool models. And maybe that leads to an aberration, or maybe actually, yeah, if we make a hardcore research, we'll get these results that you're talking about.
Well, I wanted to ask you about a couple of your more recent.
I watch the videos by Martin and the streams by Mike Rinaldi, and I get things to learn and practice with oils and whatever other. But it's kind of stuff that is new for me, but not for the modeling in general.
I agree that there's not been like a big leap forward in like as far as new techniques goes in a long time, at least as long as I've been modeling, which has only been like 9 years, 10 years, something like that. I haven't seen anything that like no one's ever done before. So I 100% agree that as far as actual technique goes, there's not a whole lot of new stuff. There is no new stuff. I would just argue that the number of people that can accomplish those sorts of things that we used to see relegated to, the heavyweights like Adam and stuff is more that, but like you were saying, that just might be because we're more connected on the internet. So we have access to more people. Yeah. It's just an interesting point that I hadn't really considered until you said something. Moving on, I did want to kind of talk about some of your more recent builds. I know the last time we spoke, we brought up a couple ones that John and I really liked. I want to touch on some of those again. But since that time, you finished one of the Austin Armored Cars from Mini Art, correct?
Yes.
I just have to ask, because I'm just started building one of those yesterday. How did you find that kit overall?
Well, it's a typical Mini Art kit. Cut it into like a bazillion parts, but there's no a big deal in making them fit together. There are no kind of fit issues. And if you want to build interior, I didn't. I was too lazy, but on their side, there's a guy who works with them and built some Austin with a superb interior finish. And the kit is very nice, and I like it because of the color options. I would prefer if the Brits back then used the big water-cooled Lewis instead of Hotchkiss Potable that are kind of too skinny for like World War I beast.
Right.
That's it. Nice kit. I want to build one more maybe in some German finish.
Yeah, I love...
My article, I believe it will be in October, Modelcraft magazine.
Oh, okay. I was just going to ask you if that... I assume that it was going to be published, but thank you for clarifying. Because I love that. That finish in particular with that like light baby blue on the top half is just... It's fantastic. And there's like a little bit of green chipping underneath of it. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, this blue shade is actually X14 Sky Blue something by Tamiya, and I was introduced to this color by a fellow modeler who has a jar of it reserved for some of his airplane builds. So I like the color and bought a bottle for myself.
One of the things that you do on your builds, and I know we mentioned this last time we talked to you, is you like to add these little tiny details that just kind of like, in my eye anyways, if I see a picture of a model and there's no name accredited to it, if I see a certain thing, I'll know that Ilya did that. So like in your C54 APC conversion from Mini Art, I believe there's a little tiny stuffed bear.
Yes. Yeah.
And sometimes it's a little tiny poster or some little crushed cans. As someone who doesn't have I could never think to do that on my own. Where does that inspiration come from? Or do you see pictures of stuff like that, or was that just you on the inside thinking if I add this little detail here, this will stand out?
Well, both. Well, I think it started when I, like 10 plus years ago, saw this approach on some of the modelers using this stuff by resin companies like Plus Model. The stuff bear is by Plus Model, and it began from there. I bought some accessories from whatever was available back then. And speaking of real world reference, there are some things that are still not done in miniature that I would like to have, like a Shrek figure on a tank. I believe some sort of a Syrian T-72 or like a little hut on a tank. So here and there are nice touches. The posters, yeah, they're popular, maybe not with girls, but like some politicians and religious figures. Yeah, you can find it in real life also. And now it's like a golden time when we have on the one hand all these 3D companies and that bring, and on the other side the heavyweight mini art that like bring the stuff every month. I believe the last release was the air conditioning and satellite. At this time I have like 2 big boxes of various stuff by mini art, by some resin and paper, posters and whatnot. I think, yes, I try to add some eye-catchy thing on each and every model. I have some of them painted, others not, and I play around. It's like I finished my latest model yesterday. It's Panzer II by Temia, like out of the box completely, while I was waiting for the resin wheels for the fire truck to arrive. And I decided to put like a road sign from Mini Art and a box that fit the color and maybe the shape of the model.
Yeah, I saw that on your Facebook profile. That is absolutely fantastic. That was so well done. The way you can just kind of, it was heavily modulated, and then with the weathering, just it's a fantastic finish.
Thank you. The last touch of some speckles I added, like watching yesterday's Mike Ronaldo's stream when he did it. So yeah, that was good. So
another build I want to talk about is your Syrian T-54B with, as you put it, fancy fence armor. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yes, it was inspired by actual photos of two different tanks. So one carried this fence armor on the turret, and I tried to replicate it and played around somehow to fit it, to make the engine hatches theoretically possible to be opened. And the other photos showed a tank with this like fence, for the lack of my vocabulary, on the hull with these fish-like figures on them. And I made these plates from styrene and the fishes of like pieces of wire. And the color finish is just to have fun with these colors and weathering along the same lines. So it's kind of inspired by, but not actually a vehicle one-to-one from a specific photo. I think this model is now closer to you because it was sold to an American collectioner. My first download experience, yeah. There's a Russian-speaking guy in Florida, and I sold, and I was happy that it arrived almost unharmed to him.
That's good.
Yeah, so it's my only experience of selling my stuff.
Well, I'm sure whoever has it is, I would love to have it. It is fantastic. So kind of playing with that. So when you select a subject, I feel like I kind of already know the answer, but do you kind of look at a reference photo to be more inspired by it, or do you like to find a reference photo and try to like replicate exactly what you see? I feel like you just kind of find a good reference and then incorporate that with whatever else you have going on, and you're just your own fantastic imagination into creating what you do.
Well, it's what drives me to select a specific model to build. It can be originated from several sources. It can be, as you said, some photo. It can be like a release by a company or a model by another modeler or whatever. Like, I'm trying to remember. I have, last year I built a BTR 70 with another sort of, it's actually not fence, it's like a window armor, sort of. It's like typical window bars used in Russia and other post-Soviet countries to prevent burglary. Is that the right term? Or illegal access into home?
Right,
burglary?
Yeah.
Okay. And when I saw a photo of it in the Ukraine conflict, wow, that was so cool. I really loved this idea. Then I downloaded like hundreds of photos of Ukrainian armor from Lost Armor .info, I believe, site. That's a real treasury of Ukrainian war and other conflicts armor, both KO and intact. And I searched for other BTRs, and I found one like this with the window frame armor was from the Ukrainian side, and another source of inspiration with a shark mouth thing was from the rebel side. So then I mixed both ideas into my model. So it's kind of no photo reference for this specific finish, but it again was taken from two different sources. And now speaking of this mini art that we talked about, the Austin, I have never considered any Austin before they released it, and this fancy British finish, the T5455 series. Well, back like 15 years ago, I thought that it's like all boring, thin, all green, and stereotypic Soviet armor. But nowadays, with all these local conflicts and crazy finishes, yeah, it makes me be interested in this topic. And have the Minat not released their series, I would go for maybe Tecom. They also have T5455 and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm aware of one Minat upcoming project, and I want it. It's top secret, but believe me, it's like a thing that is absolutely unique for the 35th scale, and I believe other scales as well.
So the armored car I'm working on is the first mini art kit that I built. I own a couple that I haven't built. I find I like their subjects. I think they pick a lot of really unique subjects, and I know their T54, T55 series is, I mean, they have like one version of like every version that's ever been made.
Yeah.
Especially the APC one. That's been on my list for a long time. And then since I've known about it, and of course seeing yours, it's like, well, yeah, I mean, I definitely have to get that just with the blue.
You can make an even more crazy conversion. I think I saw something with even Chinese sort of MLRS little this Type 63 or something. They have this kit separate, put on this chassis of T54 and something like arrangement for whatever team atop of it, team member, crew member atop of it. That would be the most crazy conversion, I believe.
I like those T55s that have the jet engines mounted on the top for melting snow on runways. Those are really cool.
Yeah, I would really love to build this one and a bunch of other engineering stuff on this chassis.
On a whole, just kind of on a more broad subject, do you prefer modern subjects or I guess like World War II and earlier subjects? What is your preferred? If you walked into a model shop and you had money to spend and you wanted to buy a kit, would you gravitate towards something more modern or something kind of old?
Well, maybe it depends on my mood and my actual stash. I have a very tiny stash of plastic kits. They're much more on the chemicals side, but kits, it's less than 10. So if I feel that I have some idea, I would lean towards it. And maybe now, okay, I waited for several releases by Zvezda, Mini Art, and Amusing Hobby, and CSM. I want this stuff. But on the other hand, okay, I've built this Tamiya Panzer II, and yeah, that may be not a bad idea to get the kit or 2 or 3 by Tamiya just to build it in between serious subjects. So yeah, it depends on the moment. But in general, yes, some maybe World War I or modern stuff to make something special, unique, to challenge myself. And World War II is, yeah, I more or less know what was the finishes and armor there. It's more like maybe relaxing or something that I really want to build, like an T-34 of the STZ plant, that there's only one Dragon kit and it's not that good.
So I'm kind of ignorant. What makes that factory different than like a regular standard T-34?
They kind of more like a brutal, and when you get the profile what I want to on this gun mantlet, it's not like a broken, it's like a straight kind of 45 degrees angle, and it looks more aggressive. And the turret is like also looking a bit aggressive to my taste, more like rougher looking.
Very unique, and it was also one of the first 76 variants where they threw all steel wheels on them. without any rubber tires at all. It's a really striking variant of the T-34-76.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know a whole lot about T-34. I like T-34s, but it's not really what I focus on, finding out little tidbits about. But that's interesting.
Yeah, those who dig and dive deep into T-34, they get crazy about like the specific plant and the month of finish and so on.
Still not as bad as Tigers, though.
Yeah, the Tigers, I believe it's several number and crew member and mechanic. Yeah, shift 1. Yeah, and rolled out of factory 45 seconds, something 20 seconds.
Dragon made a model of that, by the way.
Oh yeah, I know Dragon has like a model of literally every Tiger that was ever built. So you said you only have like 10 kits in your stash?
Yeah, it's about like 5 shell queens and 5 unstarted, plus minus, give or take. So yeah, being far away from modeling shops helps.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I wish I could say I only had 5. You can't see it, but there's like 3 huge shelves behind me, just completely full, and there's another one like on the other side of this camera. Plus everything, I got like 4 kits being built. So what are your shelf queens?
My shelf queens, there are 2 Merkavas, Merkava 1 and 3, the M50 Sherman and the M51 Sherman. There's Panzer 3 that I wanted to try and paint like 2 colors, winter versus African core finish, and I felt miserable and removed the paint. Maybe there is something else that I forgot following some Freudistic reason.
So you said you have a large chemical collection, so like lots of paints. And what's your preferred paint?
Well, it depends for which task. Like for general airbrushing, it's Tamiya acrylics. I love them. They're predictable. The quality is stable over years. It's kind of the same high-end quality that you got 10 years ago, and you can use the bottle 10 years after. I believe that guns acrylic are more or less the same. I just didn't have them much in Russia, and now, then more or less I can deal with Tamiya. And I use mostly acrylics to avoid odors, and I dilute them with alcohol. When my family was on vacation, I used this more stinky yellow cap, an emerald lacquer thin or whatever. Yes, and I try to reduce the smell and the only unavoidable smelly chemicals is the airbrush cleaner by Tamiya. Like when I airbrush Vallejo colors and their proprietary non-smelly cleaner is okay, but like not for other paints. And for brush paint, all the Spanish acrylics, be it Vallejo, are more okay. And the same about like all the animals and oils, whatever I can get. The animals, they're mostly by AK and Ammo. I use also texture paste by Wilder. And oils, it's like everything. There's several brands of artistic oils, AK, Ammo, Wilder. They're more or less comparable.
Right.
They have their nuances in the packaging. The Wilder have their own issues in packaging. And the oil brushes, Uptilunk, at least old Uptilunk packaging is, not perfect. Like what is packaging perfect is artistic Winsor or Newton oils. At least for me.
Right.
And when you use them and use them properly, they're good. All of them.
So what's your modeling space look like? Do you have a big bench, a small bench?
No, not a big bench. I believe like hardly much more than a yard and a half long. And it's kind of corner in the living room, so it's not a separated room or whatever. And there's some stuff under the table and the drawers near it. And some other stuff is stored in the closet. So there is a cheap compressor, like not this really small, but like, less than $100.
Okay.
Actually, it's like 2 compressors that I have. The older ones, it has some air leakages and whatever, and it's switches on and overheats and makes noisy. I put it aside and draw the newer one. And my airbrush is like almost everything I do with a dirt cheap eBay airbrush, like $20. Something it's like good for anything aside very shiny, very thin lines. And there you can throw the thing and get a new one and do not regret about it.
That's really impressive.
No, I'm even more impressed now.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I try to use this more fancy Harran Steinbeck or Harran Steinbeck, and anytime I tried several of them and I had problems like with the fragility of the nozzles, and it was hard to get them. I avoided it, and then I broke my Perfect Iwata, and now it's quality like not much better than this eBay no name. It's just more ergonomic in hand. So yeah, that's the sad story about my airbrushes.
There's another build that I wanted to ask you about, and I know we talked about it before, and we've already talked about T54s and T55s, but it's the African Union T55, the all-white one.
Yeah,
I just want to say that for me, that build is very inspirational, and when Tamiya came out with their 1/48 scale T55, I built mine in all-white with African Union livery, and yours was a big inspiration to that. How difficult is it to paint an all-white vehicle like that? Because I know I struggled with it, and I don't know if I would ever do it again because it was very hard for me. How did you find
absolutely.
it?
For me also, and I had an experience where I miserably failed. It was a trumpeter Centauro. It's quite a challenge. It's much more challenging for me than building a winter finish. It's kind of have this, first of all, you need to get the opacity and to somehow get the proper tone of weathering. And eventually my approach was, instead of playing around this proper dust color that will go well with white, I found that using rust effects is much more, looks better with this white finish. And this orange and maybe reddish hues are really good compared to the white background. So that was my workaround. Maybe one day I will try another more like dusty look, but yes, not today. It's really challenging. And speaking of inspiration for that model, for years I considered building and challenging myself with the UN white. And one of my friends finished, I think, BTR something in white, and it looked cool, BTR 80, I believe. It was published in Abrams Squad, I believe, in the BTR issue. He also did a great job with his earthworks there, and for me, one of sort of inspiration was some sort of engineering, mind clearing T55 by Harry Hemilia, or whatever the pronunciation is there, and another, it's actual photo of this vehicle with totally rusty, whatever handmade fenders. And I thought, yeah, that could be good. From there, I went on and tried to build it as close to the photo as possible, asking the guys that had digged the subject of T55, but I screwed up this exact type of the Lotus hatch. And from then I decided, okay, let's make it more artistic than per photo 100%.
The little lawn chairs on the rear deck, where did those come from?
The little chairs.
The chairs.
Okay. I think I bought them from Hobby Easy, some no-name company, and they were really nice before Miniat released their plastic, and other 3D companies released their.
Yeah, it's because they're like blue and red, and it's just a little neat little splash of color on the back of the tank. It's really cool. It's one of those things that you add to your builds that I think anyone that is looking at it be like, oh, that's an Ilya model for sure.
Yeah, well, actually, this is like a moderate approach to building the stuff from the African tanks. They tend I have photos that they stole like whatever, plastic jerry cans and plates for food or whatever in like huge quantities. So, yeah.
I have a bunch of reference photos, mainly of like T54, T55s, obviously, that, yeah, there's like a bunch of weird random stuff just like stacked on top of them, and you look at the pictures like that's really strange, but like
so
that's a great modeling opportunity.
Absolutely, yes. The weirdness of all the stuff that they carry can easily humble the typical Sherman Normandy stowage.
Oh yeah, because that's just boxes.
Yeah, some
And tarps.
random shit that they carry on in battle.
Maybe a bicycle here and there.
Well, my favorite models of yours, Ilya, are your Mini Art SU-85, the one with the red ladder. I really, really like that build.
Could you repeat it? Which one with the red letter?
The Mini Art SU-85 has a red ladder on the top of it.
Letter. Sorry, I had letter. Yeah, it's actually Zvezda kit, but Mini-Art also has a SU-85. Yes, it was like a model that I bought during the Corona thing, and I needed to build something with my little stash. So I quickly bought it and built it. I really like this new Zvezda generation of T-34 things. They're much better than their old, and easy to build and accurate enough.
I also really like your Spanish Civil War BT-5.
Yeah, that was a more unique thing. The whole of this BT-5 was some obscure resin conversion, and hardly is it available now. And the turret was taken from Tamiya BT-7. And yeah, I wanted to build something special in the unique color finish, and that was the idea behind this build.
Yeah, that turret with the red and the yellow all the way around it certainly is distinctive.
Yeah, initially I wanted to make it like even more unique by making it's like a nationalist red, yellow, red as far as I remember, and the Republicans would have had red, yellow, purple something, but there was not enough kind of reference to corroborate this idea that that could be actually Republican and purple band. So I went this scheme.
So one question for you. You had posted a while back some questions on a Warhammer tank, and you and TJ had collaborated a little bit on that. And so is that a subject that you plan on maybe tackling in the future?
Yes, I consider some this, whatever, call it sci-fi. For me, it's sci-fi. Whether it's gaming or not, like some futuristic something. Yes, I consider, I checked, but well, for me it's kind of why $50 plus shipping on a kit that is not exactly the level of the normal top-end AFV kit. And like yesterday and a day before, I considered checking what's about the Machine and Krieger that you guys mentioned when we talked last time. And this suits, it's about same or even bigger pricing. Maybe I'm searching in the wrong place. Yeah, I have to like let this idea to ferment inside my brain for some time to invest into this field. But definitely, yeah, I considered if it will be some Warhammer tank, why not to finish it like winter, gray, white, blue, something finish. I don't know, that would be a little too far for normal Arctic camouflage of a real-world vehicle.
And TJ, I would really like to see Ilya's take on a Machine and Krieger kit. That would be awesome.
Oh, 100%.
So on Facebook, if you don't already, follow Lincoln Wright's Paint on Plastic group. He does a lot with the Machine and Krieger. He's the ambassador for the brand out of Japan. And
recently I subscribed to his channel about the Facebook. I'm not sure. I gotta check.
Yeah, really inspiring work over there on the Machine and Krieger stuff.
Is it the guy that, I believe it's on your podcast, one of the early episodes, who told about being sort of apprentice for this Japanese guru sensei? Yeah, to me it was like very weird to hear about this approach and being in contact with armor modelers, like Western armor modelers. It's kind of normal people. It's no attitude of the cult of personality or stuff like that. For me, it's this was the most kind of striking thing about this interview.
So I do know that this may sound ignorant because I obviously do not know that much about it. But from what I gather, modeling is treated differently in Japan and in the East than it is in the West. I mean, I want to say maybe it was like Mike Rinaldi was telling us, someone told us, I don't remember who it was, that like they treat it like actual like art. You can go to like an art gallery and instead of paintings, there's Gundam figures on like pedestals, and you walk around and you look at them. Like that's how they treat it. Some, not everyone, obviously, but there's a certain aspect of their culture that's how they view it. That's awesome, but that is so different than how we look at it here.
Well, and last time, yes, we talked about whether modeling is art or not.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
that's your question, and my answer was it's not that important. You can, like, modern art, a fart, it can be an art, and stuff like that. Yeah, if your attitude is art, it's okay. My attitude, it's hobby. It's definitely not the art of the Renaissance masters level, but okay, why not?
So more of a craft than a hobby.
Well, a craft in the sense that you like pottery and you produce your pottery and sell it on the spot. Maybe tiny quantity of modelers who like build a model and sell it and build a model every week for sale. It's more about craft. And for most, I think it's hobby. It's more of invested money than anything from it. Would it be like a proper craft?
So you had an interesting post on Facebook about what's more important in modeling, accuracy or artistic finish. I think, going back to look at it, you agree that artistic finish is more important. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, for me personally, yes. It's my approach. Others cannot share it, may not share it, and it's okay until we don't spoil the life of the believers of the other heretical approach, whatever you call it. So yeah, for me, the artistic value is more important than the pure accuracy. When I look at the model, and I think the most of people, when you're not familiar with the subject and you have no idea what this specific tank should have had on this like whatever engine deck, which hatch should be of a different shape. Okay, it looks good. Who cares?
I have a two-part question for you, Ilya. First of all, what is your favorite model that you've ever built? Which one of your builds is your favorite?
Well, my magnum opus was this resin Nagmachon, both in terms of this challenge of building a resin kit, though Legends resin is not the worst one that like people talk about. And I tried to make the weathering based on a bunch of cool reference photos to make it based on the real life. As for later ones, I think that my favorite is this T54 APC because of the subject itself and on the colors. And that was interesting and challenging for me. And these models I would kind of emphasize.
Okay. And so having said that those are your favorites, what is, if you were judging with a critical eye your own builds in, say, a model competition, what's the best model you've ever built? Which one is the one that you would give the gold medal?
Well, of these two, I would go for, maybe I'll go for Nagmachon, because the finish, more or less comparable, though the bright finish has its own challenges. But I'd say for me it was more pain in the butt to build it. I have some experience of judging like little online contests, since it's quite different. You don't have to like 4 or 6 hours be inside this stuff instead of enjoying life in the event. And yeah, what's more important actually, maybe it's also the judge's subjective approach on the one hand, and the system. If you judge by criteria and criteria A has 10 points maximum and criteria B like 5 points, yeah, it's implies that like weathering is more important than building, or building is more important than weathering, whatever the judges are.
Certainly appreciate, though, I think that a lot of judging systems where the build is prioritized, the construction, I guess, is probably a better term for that, is because I think that so many of the judges aren't going to be as familiar with the subject. So it's really hard to assign accuracy as a criteria. And the same thing with the colors of paint and the accuracy of the finish, because those areas require a lot more expertise than looking at a seam that wasn't filled correctly. So I think that that's a big element of that, is just wanting to use criteria that becomes hopefully more objective and less subjective.
Yeah, the right shade of whatever Dunkelgelb or 4BO or Violet Drab is complete bullshit for me, because there is no single in the real life. Even if somehow all these shifts in all the plants use the same shade, it will be faded differently.
That's right. That tiger that was made that Thursday at 10:45 had a little bit different color Dunkelgelb than the one last week. So,
yep, I agree with that 100%. I mean, sure, somewhere there is the right olive drab or whatever, but that to me is inconsequential to how you apply it to your model. If you want your olive drab to be browner, then paint it browner. If you want it greener, paint it greener. To me, it's at the end of the day, it's the person applying the paint,
Absolutely.
building the model. They should have the final say on whether or not that's what it should be, right? Like, that's more important. The finished product and the person painting it and the enjoyment they get out of it is more important than, is that the right shade of color, you know? Because I've seen real olive drab and real 4BO and models painted like that, in my eye, don't look as good as maybe more fantastical, you know, versions of those colors. That's, of course, just my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, like the 4BO can be like any shade, and if you build a duckweed, that's the right name for this floating Jeep, DUKW, you call it duckweed. Okay, it's more or less green or tan. Okay, if it's not like bright yellow, it's fine, but if it's bright yellow, okay, it's also fine. But for the DC 2021, when they still run this stuff, at least when it was in 215, I was shocked to see the ducks running for tourists there. It's wow. They keep it in running condition like everyday use for like 70 years. Well, another stuff that I do in my modeling, a part of my modeling, is publishing. I try to publish each and every model. Not all of them get published, but some do, and sometimes in several languages. So that's another part. The magazine that are good or less good to contributors, and some editors I also had them on podcasts, and you can like invite them also. I send my stuff to like British AFV Modeler and Modelcraft and all this guideline family. And in Russian, there's single magazine, and from time to time, I actually 2 times publish and somewhere inline in the Modular magazine. I believe it's around Czech or Republic of Slovakia. And that's my experience about publishing. And it's not a source of income for living, but it's kind of covers the modeling expense if you don't like go and buy an entire shop of things every week.
So with your publishing, do the editors reach out to you, or do you, when you start a build, you build it? Obviously, I mean, you said you try to get everything published, so I'm assuming, you know, when you sit down to do a build, you build it thinking you're going to send it to someone, or the editors are asking you, hey, do you have anything you can submit?
Well, mostly it's, in most cases, not in all, but most cases, that's me going to editors and sending a letter. Okay, I have this model. Let me know if you're interested. Here are the test shots. I can provide you with the high-res step-by-step stuff and finished and so on. And yes, when I start a project, I consider whether it's relevant for publishing. And speaking about these new releases, on the one hand, yeah, a magazine would like to see a new release, and on the other hand, other guys would like to submit it also. So that should be considered.
Right. Ilya, do you have anything else that we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about?
Oh, that would be great. Some ideas about the best theme and place to buy from, all this Warhammer 40K and this Machine and Krieger stuff.
So I will say, if you're interested in building something from like Warhammer 40,000, we can talk after this, and I can see about getting something sent to you in Israel. So if I have to, I can send it to you myself. We'll figure something. We'll get something set up because, like I said, I have a lot of stuff, and I'm never going to build everything. So we'll offline. We'll set something up, and we'll try to work something out.
What's your family's opinions on your stashes and modeling? By the way, that's a topic in and of itself, or whatever roundtable.
So me personally, my wife doesn't really care about my stash. It's down in we have a basement. That's where I am now. So it's out of sight, out of mind. I have one cabinet in our bedroom that I put finished models in, and she does not like it.
Mm-hmm.
But she's got to pick everything else out in the house. So in my opinion, I'm like, I can have one, and I have another cabinet. You can probably see it back there, but I also have two cabinets, and then one's upstairs in the bedroom, and that's where I put a fair amount of stuff. So so she doesn't really care. She thinks it's interesting. I show her models when I'm done with them, and she's like, "Oh, that's nice, cool, okay." And that's as far as we get.
That's useful.
Yeah, it's pretty similar for me too. My wife is a crafter. She makes, she does paper crafting, makes cards, does scrapbooking, and we both kind of support each other in our hobby. And she actually helps me out sometimes. I'll send her upstairs with a decal sheet to scan. She'll scan it and then do the artwork and then cut paint masks for me.
Well, in my case, my wife is not happy about the time investment, not the money part.
Yeah.
Because the kids and you're doing your stuff instead of it's modeling it. Yes.
Yeah, I do. I hear about that mostly the time that I spend all my time down here. But other than go to work and mountain bike, this is all I do is model, and obviously the podcast. But I view the podcast as like an extension of modeling.
Awesome. Well, Ilya, this has been a lot of fun. We really appreciate you. Thank you for being patient with us and coming back on to talk about your hobbies. Another just kind of plug. Don't know if you've seen it on our Facebook page, but we put together a group build for M3, M4, Lee and Sherman chassis vehicles. TJ's kind of the one running that. So not sure if you'd be interested in doing one and shipping it over to us, but we're going to show up to the IPMS USA Nationals with hopefully a whole bunch of vehicles. So check that out if you get a chance.
Well, actually, I heard this on your latest podcast episode about that. And yeah, being inspired by like Martin's concrete armor Sherman, I considered building something about that. Also 48th scale or maybe Tesca 35th, but leaving the concrete in gray, not painted at olive drab. And yeah, if it's relevant for the group build, I'd like to make it one day. So you have like a year till your deadline, and it's okay with the postage for 1 month. It's still 11 or how much? 10 and a half months left.
Yep, exactly. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to maybe having you on again, talking to you again.
See ya.
Well, take care. We'll talk soon.
All right, guys. Thanks. That was a great interview. Ilya is a pretty fascinating guy.
Ilya is amazing on more than one level. First of all, the dude is an unreal modeler. I mean, just unreal. I easily put him up there with probably one of the best armor modelers producing right now. And he has what I think a lot of us would love to have is, you could look at a model and if Ilya did it. And I know for me personally, I would kill to have that. Just he has, and we talk about it we talked about it in the interview. He just has. I don't even know how to describe it. It's just a touch to his models that when they're done, you look at him like Ilya did that, and it's banging.
Yeah, that recent broken down fire engine he did is just unbelievable. And what I found fascinating, TJ, is, he mentioned several times kind of growing up in a modeling sense in Russia in a community where the finish of the models wasn't really valued. It was all about the construction and the accuracy and not about the finish. And yet out of that environment, he has developed this unbelievable, like you said, unmistakable style and craft to the finish of his models.
Yeah, I mean, I have just a hard time putting it into words. That it's just one of those things where it looks, and it probably is. So I'm not trying to discount it, but every single thing on that model is deliberate. Every little paint chip, everything, every little tiny detail looks like that meant to go there, but it looks like it belongs there and it's not shoehorned in there, if that makes sense. That right there is one of those intangible qualities that makes the truly great modeler, in my opinion. And of course, feel free to disagree with me, but that's what I see that the Adam Wilders and the Mike Rinaldi's and the Martin Kovacs, they have that touch that I just have a hard time describing it. And that's not, to me, I don't know if that's something that can be taught. Hopefully it is, because I want someone to teach me how to do it. But yeah, it's, oh man, just good stuff.
Yeah, I think what I've appreciated most about his build is he attacks colors that I find extremely daunting. On his armored car, he had that light blue on the top. He did the red fire truck. Now he has the yellow tractor. I mean, these colors are not typical for armor modelers. And in all honesty, when I try to use them, I always, they're either bleached or extreme, just cloudy when you try to he nails it though. And that's what I love most about his builds, is understanding how to work with those difficult colors outside of the typical palette for an armor modeler. And he just flawlessly executes it. TJ, you talked about deliberate things on builds. Look at his fire truck. I keep going back to it because there's so much interest. One of the sides has the panels kind of, I don't know if they're torched off or they're falling off, but inside the colors are different. They're stained, they're rusty. There's some green moss in there. I mean, it's next level. He's one of the best in the world. And I certainly admire all of his work, and I follow it every damn day on Facebook and his print stuff too. His articles are great.
Oh yeah. He's an extremely prolific author, I guess, a published modeler. I don't know how you would describe that. But yeah, just extremely prolific.
All right. With Ilya's great discussion, at that conclusion, we're going to go over to our special guest. I know we've talked to him a lot already. We mentioned his name countless times and his brand, Steve from Value Gear. We're going to do a short Modeler's Minute segment with you. Thanks again for joining us. We've talked about Value Gear a lot. We've talked about the modeling side. What about, outside of that? Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then how you got into scale modeling.
All right. So, like most people, I was about 10 or 11, 12 years old. My dad got me a model kit, and we got started. And he had built a couple things over the years, but he was kind of terrible at it. He wasn't a patient person. He's the type of guy, we used to play a lot of war games like Squad Leader and Panzer Blitz and stuff like that. But, he'd beat the shit out of my 12-year-old ass. But, if he was losing to one of his friends, like he'd flip the board over, he was just like pissed off. So, but yeah, so, he got me kind of started in modeling, and probably the first really real model kit I ever built was a German 222 armored car. I just loved the way it looked. I thought it was really cool. And I've got two since then that I plan on building just to remind myself of why I love the hobby so much. But yeah, that got me started in model building. And, as I got older, I got a little better, and, probably through my 20s and 30s, I was getting pretty decent at it. But, I'm not pro level, it's just, I just love to build and paint, and, I'm okay with the out of the box. I don't have to move a hatch 2 millimeters or anything like that. I'm not that critical about the kits.
So outside of armor, what other subjects do you like to model?
I really like the sci-fi stuff. I think it's really fun. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it. And, I'm really liking this war game stuff too. I think the war game kids are the future of our hobby, of the model building. I mean, right now they like to build and paint and play some games, but as these guys get older, they're probably going to be more into, the bigger display kits and stuff like TJ there. Yeah. But, I think it's really, I don't know. I'd like to see more of those kids start and get involved in the clubs too. They could learn a lot. And I mean, a lot of the sculpting stuff I learned, I watched war game guys on YouTube, okay, that's a cape. That's cool. But I could turn that, instead of a cape, I could make a tarp roll or a blanket, or I could do a lot of things. I learned a lot from watching what the war game kids do.
What is the modeling community like in Flagstaff?
Say what? There's nobody.
Yeah, is there one?
Yeah, there's nobody. I've actually gotten like 2 orders from guys in Flagstaff.
Really?
Over the past few years, yeah. And then, I kind of get in touch with them and I'm like, oh, cool, and they're like, yeah, okay, we'll get together. We could have a little group, little club, maybe even invite the war game kids, but yeah. And then I email them and say, hey, I'm going to this show. You want to go? And they're like, just crickets, man. I don't hear nothing from them. So yeah, so
That's a shame.
I have to do a 5-hour round trip down to Andy's and hang out on a Saturday just to talk to, all the locals and stuff. But yeah, there's nobody. I mean, like right now is a good time. I wish somebody would come over and just take some pictures of this new stowage stuff I got for me, because, that way I can keep casting, but I have to stop casting so I can take pictures. So then I got to spend a day at, editing all the pictures so I can make add it to the website and eBay and all that. And that's one of the things that slows me down. I don't have any friends to chip in when I need it.
I mean, we can send you money. You can send us those sets, and then we can take pictures for you and send them back.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's too late now. I got to do it. Andy's on my ass, man. Andy wants this shit out. He wants them. He wants people to start getting them. Yeah, no, I don't utilize the community as much as I should. There's lots of people that would love to just, get it, take some pictures and send them back for me. Cause I'm not good at taking pictures. And I used to,
I know a couple of people who are.
Yeah, I know. I do too. I need to pay attention to my resources a little better. So
you got to get your minister of propaganda to hook you up, man, and connect you with the people.
See, that's why we got to move him out here, and he can manage me. It's not that I don't work hard, because I work all the time. That's all I do. I sit around and I listen to audiobooks and punk rock and cast stuff or sculpt stuff, or sometimes I'm in slow motion, sometimes I'm in like speed mode, but I'm just it's all I do is work on this stuff. But being a one-man show, sometimes it's hard.
One thing, Steve, you mentioned at Nats that kind of resonated with me is, you do it to have fun. If you're not having fun, you're not going to do it, right? And
right.
It seems like it's giving you a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I don't get to build a lot of models these days, but I like the casting too. I mean, the manufacturing aspect, it's like a game to me. I mean, I spent my whole life in printing, screen printing T-shirts for people, and it's like, okay, well, we'll get 300 shirts an hour on this automatic, or we can get 700 shirts an hour, if we change this or that or whatever. I like the game of like trying to make it more efficient and productive, and I've been pretty good at that, and just trying to keep the prices low, and limit the packaging. And not everything needs to be in a big box, but that's fun for me too. But I would like to build a model every once in a while, and that's something I got to figure out. Maybe I just need another bench. I think I'm just going to build another bench in the house instead of out here in the garage. So maybe I can just change scenery every once in a while.
Yeah, you mentioned packaging, so this kind of goes to the name. When did you what made you think of the name Value Gear?
Well, I guess I'll just give you a little rundown of how I got started, because I always built models on and off throughout my life. I never really in Charlotte, North Carolina, which is pretty much where I'm from. I spent almost my whole life there, and but I was never involved in the clubs or anything like that because I didn't have time, because I was just worked at the print shop 60 or 80 hours a week. And, I'd come home and maybe mess with models for a couple hours here and there. Verlinden made me do it. They made me do it. because every tank I had on the shelf had the same 3 tarp rolls forever. And, I just got tired of seeing the same tarp rolls over and over. I mean, they make beautiful other stuff, but tarp rolls was, something they did not do well. They didn't do many. They didn't do a lot of choices. And that's why I chose to figure it out. So, I kind of tinkered around a little bit and, started to understand how to make them. But, I still didn't really have time because of the, having the print shop. And my wife got an opportunity to go to Ireland for 2 years to work. And that gave me a chance to get rid of the print shop, get out of that whole life before I dropped dead in there with all the stress and everything. And I went to Ireland, and then that gave me the time to be daytime dad and figure out how in the hell to make make stowage stuff. And that's what I really wanted to do. It seemed fun and something I could do from anywhere. So that's the way I went.
In terms of dates, Steve, when do you think what year did Value Gear start? Are we talking 2010, 12 timeframe?
Man, I only been doing 5th grade math with my daughter. That's hard to figure that out. It's been about 10 years because we were in Dublin for 2 years, and then we were in Lake Havasu City, which is a terrible place to live, for 4 years. And now we've been in Flagstaff about 4 years.
Yes, it is.
So maybe 9 years, because, the first year I was just kind of figuring out how to roll tarp rolls and figure out where to buy resin in Ireland and things like that. And then, my IPMS club in Dublin, greatest guys ever, like they were my test guys. They were the guys I bounced stuff off of, and, they taught me a lot, and I taught them a lot, and, it was just a good bunch of people.
So no, great, Steve. So, when you started it back in, about 9 years ago, how did you start? How did you determine kind of what resin to pick, what kind of equipment to have? Was that all through your research and kind of development in Dublin?
Yeah, when I was still in North Carolina, I'd bought a few resins and just tried copying a few things, just for my own tanks. If I get a couple rolls out of a Tamiya kit and a couple rolls out of a Verlinden kit, and I'd maybe copy a few, for my next tank. And I had a really terrible luck at it. Like, it was so humid there, I had a lot of trouble. So I knew like a resin to start with when I got to Dublin, and then I was having some trouble with air bubbles, and I'd ask them, and they're like, you want faster resin because of the humidity, because it rains all the time. It's always cold. So the faster resin actually made a big difference. But, it was kind of hard in Dublin. I mean, I didn't have a car or anything like that. So it's like I'd walk, like pushing the baby buggy really far, and then I'd be carrying this like 5-pound vacuum pump back from some, weird industrial supply place, for miles. And I was always pushing the baby buggy uphill, getting, carrying 5 bags of groceries, getting whipped in the face with rain and hail. But yeah, I don't know. It took a little time. I mean, I had some failures and stuff, but like my failure rate now here in Arizona is like almost zero. Like I almost don't have any trouble at all because it's so dry.
Yeah.
But humidity makes a big difference in casting.
Yeah, and painting too. Yeah. You're like in the perfect spot.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. You go to paint a room in the house, like as soon as you start by the light switch, and by the time you get around to it again, you can just start your second coat. I mean, that shit dries fast. I mean, you thin everything. Like even my model paints, like I thin the shit out of everything. I'd rather do two smooth coats than like I've always been a brush painter, like so I do like two really thin coats, and I kind of like that too because it gives you a little more variation in color without, you can paint the first coat kind of sloppy and then come back with the second coat, and it gives you like some wear and tear on things.
So with, we talked a little bit about earlier, you've probably made thousands, tens of thousands of, Value Gear stowage. Yeah, at least. And, the unique variety, but, and I kind of talked about this at Nats with you. If you kind of had to pick one set or one item that just sticks out and you're like, that's my favorite, what would it be?
Like each set's kind of got a piece. Like, I mean, I cast every single set. I package every single set. And so every set has like at least a piece or two that I can recognize. So if I saw like the set dumped out on the ground, I could tell you what set it was by identifying one or two pieces that I really like in each one.
I can attest to that because I showed you my Easy 8 Sherman that I brought to Nats, and you looked at the stowage. You're like, "Oh, that's set, whatever." And I was like, "Yeah, that's exactly what what it is."
And I mean, I see every single piece. I mean, I touch every single piece. Sometimes I can remember making them.
For sure. So, talking about making sets, I'm curious. You got connected with Asuka. How did and the owner of Asuka, if I'm not mistaken, how did that connection happen?
Well, this guy John was doing some research for him on different things, and he'd come up with a good idea, and he'd work.
John Hale, right?
Yeah, John Hale. God,
John Hale out of Ohio. Yep.
Yeah, Ohio. I haven't seen anything from him in so long. I've been meaning to just call him up. But yeah, he's super, super nice guy. But so, he wanted to do like a Thunderbolt 7, and he talked to Asuka about it, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. And then, so John made up some masters for, the armor, the extra armor for the Thunderbolt 7. And then I wound up casting it. And then we did another one. There was a China Clipper, which is, just I don't think it was a Marine tank, I guess the Army, for the Pacific. And we did that. We did another one. There's been several, but they're just not, it's just not something that's continuous, And I think if I was an idea man, I'd probably come up with ideas and they'd be into it, but I'm not. I'm not a researcher. I'm not an idea man. I just kind of make what I feel at the time.
You're having fun, man.
Yeah, I am having fun. And there's a lot of things I won't cast because they would make it not fun. People are like, oh, you need to do this, and it's like, no, I don't. I don't want to do that. I don't want to make a really complex 2-part mold to make this flimsy ass cover for a 2.5 truck because it's, first off, the failure rate's going to be higher because it's thin and it's a pain in the ass. And secondly, the postman's going to crush it before it even gets to you. So why bother? I just don't, I try to make things, I think them through before I even make the molds. I try to get rid of undercuts. I try to plan, I might throw an extra tarp, or a little flap of tarp or something over something so that it makes it an easier cast. I just don't like having trouble. I don't like having failure. It just, keep it fun or do something else. I've already been the other route. I've been had the print shop with the 25 people working there and the constant phones ringing and, just problems and having to do somebody's job because they're sick or they're out or they're hungover. I don't want any of that. It's kind of why I'm so stuck on working all by myself all the time.
No, that's completely understandable.
So, Steve, where do you see Value Gear going? Where's it going to be in 5 years?
It'll still be in my garage right here because I don't think I ever want to move this shit. Yeah, I'm pretty entrenched in this 2-car garage now. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of, there's 26 sets of universal tarp rolls of all shapes and sizes. You know what I mean? So I kind of need to move towards some different stuff. And, I've always had ideas like I wanted to do, pick up all this weird stuff. And I collect a lot of strange things that I find. I've got all these little mocked up like sci-fi landing zone lights, like something there might be around a landing pad and just weird tapered cylinders. And, I kind of want to make a lot more sci-fi stuff. It seems, I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. I don't know. I don't think that far ahead.
I would love to see you do like some sci-fi stuff, like in Star Wars, on all those landing pads, there's all these little droids and pieces of equipment and machinery. I mean, the thing I think that makes so many people relate to a lot of science fiction is it looks very armor-like, it looks very like things that we see around us. It's used and rusty and chipped and all that kind of stuff.
Right. And that's, I try to make the wooden crates and the universal generic stuff. I mean, I've seen it on everything from a railroad to a model car to a Forge World troop transport for wargaming, just the top of it just covered with stowage. I think it's cool to see everybody using it for different things. I want to give people building bits, bits to build with, not here's what you're going to build. I don't like that. I don't tell people how to build models. You know, I mean, even the Sherman sets, you know, like it's a Sherman set, it's a deck piece, but then where everybody puts all the other stuff that, you know, for the picture that's in their head. You know, I love seeing that.
That's a great perspective. I mean, you're empowering people's vision and you're trying hard not to step on them in the process. That's really great. So we ask a lot of our guests, if you could have a magnum opus build, if you could do a model that you've always kind of wanted to do and scale doesn't matter, just what would it be? What would be like your ultimate Steve Munsell build?
That to me, M18 Hellcat. It's my favorite tank. I'm so excited about that.
It's a good choice.
I like it. I think it's a fantastic tank, and that's one that's been absolutely overlooked in by the model companies for years and years and years.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we have two of them, and they both suck in completely different ways. So
yeah. Who makes the other one? I have the Academy.
An AFE club, but it's one of their really, really old ones, and it just had a lot of issues with it.
Issues don't bother me. I'll just cover it with stowage. The reason I love stowage so much is because I hate decals. I just want to cover it all up.
Oh, we could do it. We could do 2 hours on how much I hate decals.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I don't know. I've looked at tutorials and I don't know. It's just one of those things. I understand how they're made. I've screen printed them before, for other people. I've made decals. I understand the lacquer and the, all the art and how to do it. But yeah, just getting them on a model and making them look good.
Have you considered smaller scale stowage? Because I can tell you, as someone that collects and plays
1/100,
15 millimeter,
yeah,
1/100,
yeah,
there is almost no stowage bits available for any. Maybe one company out of the UK, and it's all cast white metal and
expensive.
They're okay, but not something I would chase after.
I have thought about that, and I've got an entire. I use these little plastic bowls that are all over. I mean, I got hundreds of them that I sort sets into before I package. And there's one of them that is full of little rolls for 1/100 that I just haven't done anything with yet. And I actually bought, I don't know, whatever the company is. There's a plastics injection mold company that makes a bunch of that little stuff too.
There's a couple of them.
Okay.
There's Battlefront. They make Flames of War. There's Plastic Soldier Company. They make 15 millimeter scale.
Yeah, Plastic Soldier Company. I bought a bunch of those Stugs and Shermans. So it is something I plan on doing. I mean, I got a list of stuff to do a mile long.
Because I could tell you you would sell those. Okay. Because I know, just talking like in the Facebook groups, there's no stowage available. And like the kits, like some of the Battlefront ones, they come with like one box or a spare road wheel for a Sherman.
Right.
And like, that's it.
Gotcha.
And I can send you some pictures of mine. I've done the best with what I can, what's in the box, but it's like, how many times can you put a road wheel on a Sherman?
Right.
And you may have 15 Shermans on the table at any time, and there's no variety. And it's not that lame because they're so cool, but it's like, as someone, especially because one of the main target audiences for these games are nerds, right? That are like obsessed with whatever, whatever, pick an army,
right?
Pick a tank, and they know all about, and they want like specific looking stuff, right? And I think that would be successful because people love, I mean, as you know, people love sticking stuff on their tanks.
Well, typically what I do is like, if I go, okay, I'm going to do this scale, or I'm going to make some new stuff for this. And it's part of the reason I always have like 3 or 4 sets. Like for instance, some super cool dude on a forum buys like a set and then he puts it on a tank and everybody goes, oh shit, I need that set. And, I got 20 guys ordering the exact same set on a day. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? Because there's 25 other sets that are similar but different. They were all made like at the same time, typically. So like I sit down and I'll make like hundreds of bits, and then I'll sort it into like, 3 or 4 sets or whatever. Probably, with the 1/100, I think the problem is I'm not sure I want to sit here and glue down like 200 pieces into a little box to make a mold. It's going to be, it's a lot of little pieces. It's definitely something that's been in the works, And when you started out, when you said, have you thought about doing my friend Pat in Dublin, me and him, like we have so much fun with that because people are always like, you should do this, you should do that. It's like, why should I do that? Somebody else is already doing that. I should do something different than what they're doing, like why copy people? It's like there's plenty of business for everybody out there. But me and Pat will always be like, have you thought about doing the 1937 sardine crates, or this from the shoestring factory and this little town and this little place that nobody's ever heard of, it's like, no, I haven't thought about doing that. But everybody's got their own, the hobby's different to everybody and everybody's got their own sort of, idea in their head. And, sometimes they're not happy with the idea I had in my head, like this is how I see it. It takes all kinds, man. It's such a diverse hobby. I mean, I had a guy one time that, returned a set of crates. He just said, you know what? These just don't look right with my cowboy and Indian toys. And I'm like, what? what are those? Like, I didn't even know that was a thing, but he sent me a picture and these giant plastic cowboys and Indians. Okay. All right. That's your thing. Have at it. I'll send you some pictures of the 1/100 so you can see it. Just see kind of what I mean, it's mostly just like little rolls, but there ain't much detail I can do on that. I can't see that good.
So, hey, Steve, thanks so much for not only taking time in this segment for our Modelers Minute, but sitting with us for this episode. It's been really great to get to know you more. I know I think we all became best friends when we were in Vegas, and we were super happy to get you on here. It's been great to learn about yourself, Value Gear, and your support towards the hobby and our root build. So we certainly appreciate it, and we hope you stop back again sometime soon.
Yeah, and thank you guys. I mean, especially at Nats. I mean, it was awesome to have some people to hang out with. Otherwise, I would have been just wandering around by myself all the time.
Man, it was great. It was awesome being in the booth with you and hanging out. And
we look forward to it again in Omaha. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I hope you can make something work. If not, we can carry the Value Gear banner and maybe even set up a table in your honor and sell your wares.
All right. Yeah, we'll figure something out. I'm gonna work hard on that problem and see what comes out of it. So
again, Steve, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. See you guys.
All right. As always, you can leave us feedback about this or any other episode of our show over at our Plastic Posse Podcast Facebook page, or you can email us at plasticpossepodcast@gmail.com. We want to thank our awesome Posse supporters once again and give another shout out to our 2 awesome sponsors, Tankraft and Sean's Custom Model Tools. And remember, there is no wrong way to enjoy your hobby.
That's right, TJ. Thanks again to all of you out in the Posse for joining us for episode 31. I wanted to take another moment and thank all of you out there in the Posse for all of the tremendously positive feedback that we received from episode 30, specifically with regards to the topics of anxiety and modeling. It really takes courage to discuss these challenges openly, and the Posse stepped up to discuss this difficult issue in a positive manner. Thank you for sharing all of your own personal stories with us. We're going to continue to address this difficult topic, and we want all of you to know that we are all here for each other, and we're here for you if you need us. On a related note, we'll be back in 2 weeks with an exclusive interview with Graham Pearson. He's a UK modeler. He's one of Ivan's buddies, and he's also a former member of the Scale Model Shed podcast. And besides being buddies with Ivan, in our interview, Graham also discusses his own personal challenges and also how modeling has helped him deal with these issues. So until then, we hope everybody out there spends some time at their own benches and has some fun doing the best hobby that there is. Guys, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Yeehaw!
Nice.
That was good.